All right. Why is it not?
Sometimes things.
Oh, God, I hate technical difficulties. Right. Try this again. Coach, how you doing? Can you hear me? Oh, there we go.
Coach Malone on.
Yep. I think I'm just waiting on Coach to come on, and I'm trying to make sure all my stuff is working.
All right, gotcha.
Because you know how that goes. Technical difficulties always are fun.
Be in there for sure. We'll grab a notebook. I'll be right back.
Just, like I said, I'm making sure everything on my end is working. Can you do me a favor? I'm going to step out and open this on my phone to make sure I'm not having any major delays. You could sing the My Little Pony theme song for all I care. But can you just literally talk for like the next 30 seconds, make up something? It does not matter.
Yep, sounds good.
And then I will also we don't have any major problems.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. Tonight, big game 7 for, Minnesota Timberwolves here. A big Minnesota fan. Wolves have been looking good over the last, 36, 48 hours. I really like our chances against Jokic and Murray. I think Murray's due to continuous struggles. I certainly think that the Wolves are a team of destiny. 20 years to the day when their last Western Conference Game 7 finals was.
Perfect,
so
Coach.
Looking forward to it. All good?
Yeah.
All right.
I love how you just went to Western Conference Finals immediately, just like.
I got it. We need some sort of hope here in Minnesota when it comes to Minnesota sports, so we're just going to make things up.
I mean, hey, the best part of that is the article about obviously your team's in the middle of a possible sale, and it's like, oh, we're doing great this year. And then potential new ownership group, we want to trade everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's
exactly.
logical. But hey,
just wild.
Yeah. All right, we got about a minute, and then I will tweet and subtweet and mass whatever. Because
do you want me to share my screen now, or do you want to wait till after
go ahead and share your screen, and then that way, literally in about 30 to 40 seconds, I can literally just, as I do my intro, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I can't think right now. It's been a long day already.
It's all good.
And then you can literally just funnel into it. And then, like I said, you'll have 20 to 25 minutes. And then I leave 5 minutes just in case you go over or there are any questions. From my experience, a lot of time people just message you directly afterwards. But, buddy, and like I said, I'll monitor any chat and all that lovely stuff on the live stream. And
so,
yeah. Like I said, as far as I can tell, everything's working. And then put any questions. All right. Yep, there you go. So I think, and I'm going to guess because we've actually never talked face to face or video to video. I'm going to guess Wiley as the last name. Is that the correct pronunciation? Willie. Okay. See, that's why I ask.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, mine's been butchered so much that I know to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Good policy.
So coaches, we're going to get started. Like I said, people are funneling in already and funneling out and doing all that lovely jazz. And so first today we have Coach Brian Wille. He is the offensive coordinator at Fairmont High School there in the great state of Minnesota. As anybody that was already on kind of saw that he's talking about Western Conference Finals that are coming up. He's going to talk building double teams in the gap scheme, mostly angle and gallop technique. Coach, the floor is yours.
Hey, Coach, appreciate the opportunity and appreciate the opportunity to listen and hear all the other speakers that are going to be a part of this clinic. Coach does a great job of advocating for our game and really bringing in coaches and giving back to the sport. So thanks, Coach, for all the stuff that you do for us, and I appreciate the opportunity. Coaches, if there's anything that you need from this and there's more information you want from me, here's the best way to get a hold of me. My contact on Twitter is probably the quickest and fastest way to get a hold of me, but that's my school email. You can certainly email me there as well. I'm happy to share anything that I got with you to help you guys get whatever you need out of this and make you guys the best version of yourself when it comes to your upcoming season. So for us, this presentation is going to be about the type of double teams we use in our gap schemes. So why we chose to go gap scheme, we do dabble a little bit with zone, some tight and wide zone, but we major in gap scheme. And the reason for that is because of the simple rule progression for our players. Our players have a rule system that translates to any kind of front that we're going to see. And we see a lot of different fronts around here. So having a transferable set of rules for our players is incredibly important, which is what the gap scheme allows for us. It does great against a lot of movement. We don't see a ton of movement anymore since we've gone to more majority gap scheme type runs. It's not to say that we don't see some, we just don't see as much as we certainly used to. And the rules are flexible, and just in terms of like being flexible towards our players, allowing them to really from different type of processing speeds, be able to execute the scheme to a high level. And so it fits our personnel, it gives our kids flexibility, and really our kids really take hold to it and take a lot of pride in our gap scheme. So that's kind of like the basics of why we went into gap scheme. But really what makes it work for us is obviously creating displacement at the line of scrimmage. And a lot of credit to that goes to the way in which we teach our doubles teams. And we spend a lot of time on double teams because for us in our gap scheme, if we can't get movement at the point of attack, none of this really matters. And so we use two different types of double teams with our players. We use a Gallop type double team and an angle type double team. Now, I've heard in different places, you've heard a lot of great offensive line coaches will talk about when they use the Gallop and when they use the angle. This is when their play side gap is open and the next down defender is more than one gap away. And I'll show you some pictures of that so you can kind of see what exactly that looks like here in just a moment. But that's what we do. There's other teams that will Gallop with players that are at a 3 technique. You know, if you're a tackle and a guard, they'll Gallop that 3 technique. For our players, when they've tried to Gallop, when they have a defender in the gap adjacent to them, it just doesn't get the same type of movement that we're looking for, that the angle might. So for us, we're telling our guys to communicate to one another, you're going to Gallop when the play side gap that you're responsible for is open and the next available defender for you to double team is more than that one gap away. So likely going to be in some sort of technique over the adjacent lineman you're going to be working with on the double team. We then use the angle double team when the play side gap is occupied. There's somebody sitting in the gap that you are responsible for. And at any point in time, if our players are unsure of which one should I use, Gallop or angle, we tell them just commit to it and communicate it to the people that you're working around. So we have different language for our kids to communicate what type of double team they're going to use and who needs to be part of that double team scheme. So one of the things that helps us, really try to execute our scheme to the best efficiency is we make sure our offensive linemen are students of the game. When they come up and they figure out what type of double team they want to execute, they need to also figure out what's it going to take to make sure that this double team is going to be effective. So one of the things we ask our guys to do is key to the linebacker alignment, because we believe the linebacker alignment is going to detail what the defensive line is going to try to do. For example, if the linebacker that I'm going to be double teaming to is outside of me, so away from the play, not backside, but away from the play side, we know that we're probably going to have a little bit more time to stay on that double team level one, and we're probably not going to get our double team to that linebacker play side. The puller is probably going to take care of that. So as a result of that, if the linebacker is aligned head up or outside of me play side, I got a pretty good feeling that linebacker is going to flow outside towards the play. Whereas if he's more backside of me, then I got a pretty good feeling that he's going to try to run through the gap. So that means if I'm the post man on this double team, my eyes better be pretty solid on that inside gap. Likewise, when the defensive lineman is playing more of a heavy technique, we tell our offensive lineman, if they're playing heavy, he's likely two gapping. So that's a more likelihood of them possibly trying to slant into certain gaps. And we might have to transition from potentially a gallop technique, if we've called it, to a down block. Or we might need to, maybe if we have a gallop thought in our mind, maybe transition a little bit more to an angle, because we want to make sure that that first level defender is moved before any of the magic ever happens. So just having these keys that our players go through for a checklist really gives them an idea of how do I make the best call for me and the guys I'm working with, and how can I make it with conviction? And that's really what we're trying to help them do, and really kind of get the scheme executed as the best possible way. So let's start with the gallop. When we're talking about a gallop double team here, our goal for the gallop is to displace your play side gap and then be able to block at level 2. So here we're really looking at a way to make sure that our guard and tackle are working in symmetry, or our guard and our center are working in symmetry that allows the driver of the double team to be able to block somebody at level 2 under control with their body squared to the line of scrimmage to handle any type of movement from the linebacker and their flow. So when we look at every double team, we have a postman and a driver, or some people will call it a lifter and a driver. For us, when we're looking at our postman, he's going to be the inside man of the double team. And if you look at the picture here on the right, if I can kind of highlight here with my cursor, the center in this case is going to be the person who's going to be the postman, okay? In this case, he's got a head-up technique that's going to be in some sort of an odd front, so he's got a nose. In this case, what we tell our players who are going to execute the postman, and when we have a gallop technique, is he must first step with his foot that's away from his help. So in this case, in this particular play, we were running power to the left. So if we're running power to the left in this picture, then our center is going to step first with his foot away from his help. So his help's coming from his left, so his first step's going to be with his right foot. Now, when that happens with his backside foot, it's a timing step. It's meant to make sure that the foot can get into the ground, and we want to make sure that foot is braced. And what I mean by braced is your knee is inside your ankle. That is able for you to get power on your vertical movement. And it's also able for you to be able to handle any type of stunt that might cross your face. You can be able to do so with more power than you would if your foot is not braced. So when we get to our individual portion of this clinic, I'm going to talk about, like, when we're drilling these things, these small little coaching points, getting that braced foot is incredibly important to make sure that you can stand up that defender, because the postman's goal in all of this is to execute a drive block, but also to create a surface for the galloper to be able to displace the near hip of the down defender. So the first step is going to be with his foot away from his help. The second step is going to be with his play side foot, and that's going to be an attack step vertically, hopefully trying to surpass the feet of the defender and create displacement vertically while creating a surface for our galloper to gallop into. A couple coaching points that we look to, and you can kind of see it here a little bit in this picture with our center. In a different game when we're seeing a nose, we are looking for this center to execute this drive block vertically, but coaching points that we're looking for is, do they have tight elbows? I should not see any space or air in their armpits. So if I'm looking at this center right now, I don't see any air in his armpits, which tells me he's got good leverage with his hands on inside, which allows him to then displace things vertically. In terms of his aiming point with his face mask, if we are seeing a head-up technique, we're telling him, get your face mask in his sternum, and wanting to have that sternum try to eventually veer off to the play side armpit once we've gotten displacement. Tight elbows, like we talked about, no space or no air in between the armpits. And it's important that you must use your hands to create surface. You have to make sure you create a lift of sorts to expose the hip for our galloper who's going to be the driver. So as we go to our outside guy, our driver, his job is to execute what we call a gallop block. This is all in 3-step timing. If there's nothing there after the 3rd step, we tell then our galloper, then more than likely that defensive lineman has spiked or slanted inside. You should then transition vertically and block somebody at level number 2. So the first step that we want to do for this gallop block is to gain ground at an angle with your inside foot, the foot that's closest to the defender that you're going to be galloping. Create an angle to get some sort of movement towards your defender. On that second step, then we use a gather step, and we try to teach it somewhat like you're trying to set that 3rd step in the ground as if you're a pitcher on a pitching mound. We want to get that foot in the ground like it's a skate step is what we call it, and you're pushing off of it for that. When you make that 3rd step now, that's our contact step. But in order for you to get the most momentum moving forward as possible, we want that 2nd step to be like a pitcher putting his foot up against the rubber and pushing off to pitch towards the line of scrimmage. So what we do is on that 2nd step, it's a gather step, but it's also a skate step where we put that foot into the ground and we explode off of it. And then by the time we make contact on that 3rd step, we want our forearm to be displacing the hip of the exposed down D lineman. And while we do that, we want to explode through that hip with our forearm, but we got to have that 3rd step in the ground. Ideally, that 3rd step would be inside the near foot of the defender, because that's when we know we've exploded through the hip, and we should finish with our foot inside the defender on the down lineman. Now, that doesn't always happen. I mean, especially with high school kids, that might be a little bit more difficult with their footwork, but that is the goal. That's the visual I try to give our guys. And at a very minimum, when they're exploding through that hip, they're going to get that foot there eventually, which helps them create displacement to get to level 2. So if at any point in time, like I talked about, the defender spikes out or away, our offensive lineman, who's the driver, then transitions to a traditional down block to go to level number 2. So you can see here at the gallop, I know the pictures are kind of grainy. I apologize for that. But we have 2 different here visuals of our guys trying to execute a gallop block. You can see our guy on the left here. He's got decent footwork in terms of where he's at in relation to the foot. But you can see he's making contact still pretty far away from his defender. And you can see his hips are locked out. Because of that, he's already got his forearm to the hip. And you now see his partner who's kind of maxed out in terms of where he's got to be. The amount of power he's going to now displace on that defender is minimal compared to what he could be if he's more loaded up. His foot's closer to the near foot of the defender here and this part right here. If his foot can be closer to that and slightly inside, and I'm talking about this guy right here, then he's going to be able to create more displacement in this direction. You can see our player over here on the right. He's got displacement. He's got good eyes. His eyes are right to the hip. His forearm's right to the hip. Everything's looking really good there. But look at this space that you got here. That's not going to create a lot of power. And you see with our guy on the right, he's going to be likely to probably roll off that block. Because if number 70 here has any kind of movement and gap integrity into his gap, he's going to split that double team and we're going to be in problems. So just having these small little kind of coaching points to make sure the importance of why do I need to have that inside foot if I'm the driver on the gallop so much closer to or surpassing the foot of our interior lineman. These are the reasons why. You can hopefully give them some visuals in which to use that for. Too much into this. If you want to see more clips, I'd be happy to share them with you another time, but more so I want to get to more the fundamentals of the piece. So here, I'll just kind of show you the different pieces of it. Here's that visual here of our right guard. He's trying to execute a gallop here. So as he executes the gallop, first steps in the ground. His second step here, he's trying to set it into the ground to skate off of. So you can see it's there now, but look how vertical he is. He needs to be with a little bit better pad level lower, so he can explode off his foot. His foot's too vertical here to get much movement and push off it. So because of that, he lunges a little bit. And when he lunges, you can see he's now missing his striking point. And we want that to be a little bit lower. Let's go to our next clip. Our next clip again. His first step actually goes backwards. We don't want that because now you're going to see he's in a lunging technique. We want that first step being a timing step that almost pick it up and put it back down so that way you can reset your outside foot. You can see now in the second step here, see how he doesn't have any power off that outside foot just based on his angle. And now when he makes contact, yeah, he strikes the hip and it's great. But eventually number 70 here, he could split that double team. So you got to make sure you just kind of fine tune those little details to make sure that those things don't happen. So you can see here now, here's an example of now with our left tackle, in this case right here, how he's executing the gallop and what he does when all of a sudden the defender's not there. So here he has good first step. First step's there. You can see now, look at that bent knee. That's what we're looking for on the skate step. That's exactly kind of the movement we're looking for. He's looking ready now to make contact on the third. Guy's gone. He's slanted inside. So now he transitions his eyes vertical, doesn't chase the eye candy that's going over the top, trusts his guys to get to it, and the play fits pretty well. Our back just decides to bounce it outside. So like those are the progression of things that we would look to in clips and film to say this is why our double teams need to get better in this respect or that. Let's transition now to our angled double team. These are going to be the more common ones that we use because we see a lot of teams who play four fronts to us or guys that play in gaps. So you can see in the visual here over to the right, in our angled double team, we're going to have a lifter and a driver still. The postman's going to be the lifter. In this case, we're going to tell him you're responsible for half to 75% of the man in the gap. So for the postman, he's going to execute what we call a lift and sift block. A lift and sift block is where his first step from a footwork perspective is a timing step. And he's going to take this with his foot away from his help, just like we talked about in the last play. In this case, though, his second step is now an attack step that we're telling him he wants to split the crotch of the defender, and we want that foot to be on his side of the line of scrimmage when contact is made. His aiming point's going to be the play side shoulder through the bottom of the number in terms of where his strike's going to be. So he wants to take his play side shoulder. We tell our guys, pretend it's like a shovel, and we want you to scoop the bottom of the number up. So imagine that you're scooping sand, take your shoulder like a shovel, scoop the bottom number, the play side number of the defender and lift it up. Because once you lift it up, now you're creating a surface for our driver to get a double under technique, which we'll talk about here in a moment. So give them that visual, strike with your shoulder, your play side shoulder on that lower part of the number and shovel it up. And your eyes during this entire time need to be detached from your shoulder. Your eyes need to be in your gap the entire time. As you can see here, number 55, his eyes are in his gap the entire time. And he's now struck from low to high with that shovel. He's now exposed the chest of the defender, which allows the double under technique here from our tackle. Our tackle, or our driver in this case, executes a down block. You can see it here from number 62 on the outside. In this case, a driver's first step is going to be a position step to align his hips on his angle of departure. So in this case, we use inside footwork. That first foot's going to be almost pick it up and put it back down, but reset your hips on an angle in which that you got to execute this block. The second step then is going to step, and we tell for this coaching point, through the near hip of the defender. So if we tell him, okay, you're outside, and as that second step gets in the ground, now we should be shooting a double under technique. Our inside hand is the one that's going to be the hand for control. Okay, we want to make sure that we control and that he doesn't split the double team. That hand's going to be on the breastplate of the defender, the chest plate, if you will. The outside hand then is for movement. If we can, we want to get on the hip and drive as best we can. If not, get to that backside breastplate or under the armpit and drive vertically through that, or drive at an angle through that with both hands. With inside hands for movement, outside hands going to be, or excuse me, inside hands for control. Sorry about that. Outside hands for movement. Okay, so if those hands understand like the purpose of each, you can then start leveraging your hands and your footwork, which will then accelerate once that contact is made on your second step. So here, I'll show you kind of one from the tight here. This is the only clip I'm going to use in terms of our angle. We'll highlight here our left tackle and our left guard. They're going to be working on a 3 technique here. So our left guard here takes his first step with that inside foot. Now his second step is coming vertically. You can see his eyes are remaining in his gap the entire time. He never even sees what the defender's doing. He just knows his body's going to control that gap. He's going to use his forearm to lift his shoulder could be a little lower here, this pad level, creates that displacement up. But because he doesn't get enough surface level, you can see now when the contact is made by our tackle, granted he's 6'8", so he's got a long ways to go, his now contact is high instead of being low in that exposed breastplate and chest plate that he was looking for there. So in that case, now his posture is a little bit differently as he's trying to execute this down block. And things get a little bit out of motion here. But you can see his first step's going to be, again, away from his help through, drive vertically now to get the displacement that we're looking for. So again, that's the kind of blocks we're going to use when we have guys lined up directly inside our gap. Like we have this defender right here. We would use Gallop if he was head up the inside guy like we saw before. So how do we drill this? We drill it first by boards. All these blocks, the Gallop block, the lift and sift, the drive block, the down block, all those different types of blocks we first are going to do with boards. You can do them with boards if you have actual boards to do them. We sometimes will do them in the off season with lines on the track, just so they have some sort of a visual of what they need to kind of keep on in terms of their footwork. Once we do that, once they get the initial driving and down and the footwork, we then film it. We film it from behind. We want to see, okay, once we start filming it from behind, are their steps in sync? After that, we also want to look at, okay, we're going to add now a hand shield. We want to see, is now contact being made on that second step? And when contact's being made, is there any air in the elbows? Is there kind of any air in the armpits? We want to see if all the small coaching points are being followed. And we can do that by simply doing a board drill, going through all the different types of blocks and then filming it from behind. We then will transition to filming it in front. So when we want to start looking at where their eyes at, like the angle doubles for the postman, we can film it from the front. If we want to look at any kind of stuff in terms of eyes, we film from the front, usually at linebacker depth. So you can also add like a medicine ball. If you guys don't like hand shields, we don't like we don't like medicine balls as much, just from our players at different levels. Sometimes that doesn't give them the kind of core look that they're looking for. We actually prefer these hand shields, as you can see in the picture, and we actually prefer them turned around. So the handles themselves are out. That gives now our guys a visual for when they're striking, we tell them to literally grab the handles and then complete the block from there. So it helps kind of create that hand strike placement, but then also helps them transition to the drive aspect of it. If you're worried about, like a lot of your guys, that they're making contact, but they're not getting displacement, you can also do this drill with a down knee. So they're working on getting that backside hip through as well to create that displacement that you're looking for. So
yeah, about
we
5
do a
minutes,
lot
Coach.
with these. Pardon, Coach?
5 minutes.
Yep, thank you. So when we're looking at those type of things, those are the kind of things you can do in a gym. You can do this in the off season, but the key here is to break down every single little aspect and be very crucial on it, because if you start looking at the little things, they'll eventually become the big things in the end. So from boards, then let's look at some of the other things. We start adding now combos with it. You can do combos with boards if you want. We don't typically, but we'll go to the lift and sift drill. So here's our angle double team. You can see in this picture over here, when I was visualizing this or videoing this, our driver here, his shoulders are tilted. He doesn't have a very good angle in terms of his footwork. Like his angle for departure now is going like in a different angle than we want him to. So if you see his angle coming this way here, we want it to be a little bit more of a 45-degree angle. We want it to be right here as this guy's moving vertical as well. Because if he's going too much like his first initial one was going to be, they're creating space now for that double team to be splitting. So additionally, again, if you go and take pictures of this, or if you're going to, film all this type of stuff, these are the small little things you can look for. Just look at his posture too. His feet don't create a lot of base of power for these guys as well. So by having this hand shield also, you can see, is it in the near part of the breastplate? Is his backside hand in the armpit? Like those are the different types of things. I can tell at the inside postman here, his eyes are on the down defender. They should be in his gap. So like things like that in the lift and sift drill, we're looking for, where are your eyes? Where are your feet? Are you overstriding? Are you using your forearm to create that displacement? And when it's all said and done after the lift and sift drill, we go to 4-man pods. We do 4-man pods at least once a week. We'll do 3-man pods if we need to, just to emphasize the down lineman. But when we're structuring this and scaffolding it, we go from boards. We go from boards to the lift and sift drill. We'll also take a lift and sift drill, and instead of lift and sifting it, we'll move the defender to a head-up technique, and we turn it into a Gallop drill, where the Gallop drill is a 3-man pod, just working on the displacement, just like the lift and sift drill is going to be. Now that we've passed the lift and sift and the Gallop portion of it, now we go to the last part of our scaffold, which is a 4-man pod. So now we're adding the linebacker at linebacker depth. Then when we're doing this, again, the defender can be in the gap, the defender can be on him. At this point, once we get to the 4-man pod, it's all based on game week, what the defense is going to be lining up to in terms of their alignment. In fall camp, we just tell the defense, line up wherever you want within this double team. And these guys got to communicate the proper double team in which to execute in this drill. But we do it every single week as part of our EDD package, because these are the essential things that we need to have if we're going to run and major in the ton of gap scheme. So again, in this piece, what we'll do is we'll listen for the type of calls. We'll have a coach in behind trying to film it, possibly with the phone, just to view any kind of displacement and footwork piece, and then we'll have a coach filming from them on front to see what their eye displacement is. We'll find 2 or 3 of those clips, send them to the players to look at during the game week and be like, these are the things that you're looking at. And it's that keeps that constant conversation of the small details moving so that we can get the best piece possible. That's all I got here for you, Coach. Questions that you guys might have.
A, perfect. B, I had a good question about kind of how you're practicing it, but you kind of hit on it. I do want to kind of build on something though. You mentioned about armpits and leverage earlier. And I kind of, because I know a variety of gap scheme people and I've spent a lot of time in the wing T, and that's becoming, I think, a bigger coaching point. And you kind of mentioned it there. Why is that? Why is a terrible word? As you've developed this and when did you realize that was kind of your one of the focal points or issues in terms of tight elbows and armpits and in terms of correlating to leverage?
Yeah, great question. So for us, what we started to find out is our guys, we look at their feet and they were having good footwork, but then we were getting a lot of stalemates and we were getting not a lot of movement. And a lot of times we actually got competing movements where our one guy would be blocking this way and our guy would be blocking this way. And we weren't generating any movement at angles. And so we started wondering, well, why aren't we getting any movement? Well, in part because the momentum that we were trying to push in on these players to go vertically or go at an angle wasn't going the right way because their arms weren't helping the cause. The arms were almost like providing like additional friction and restriction to create that kind of movement. So if we want to like bottle up all of our movement and all of our power, we got to get it going in the same way. So in order to do that, those elbows got to be tight. So now it unlocks our entire body, our entire core going in the same direction. Because once these arms start going out, now you got movements going in contrast to one another instead of in unison with one another. So like we use that as a visual for our guys of like trying to move things. Like if you try to move like a fridge and you're pushing it like this, you're not going to get the exact same type of movement that if you decide to push a fridge with tight elbows and push it forward. So like that was the visual we used just because we weren't getting enough displacement. And then that's something we continue to drill over and over just to see, is there any air there? Do you have tight elbows? And then also, if we're getting a lot of teams that have really active defensive linemen with really good hands for pass rushing time, we know even more so the importance of tight elbows. So just kind of keeping that as a consistent teaching point, all that we do usually seems to help.
Okay, perfect, Coach. Coaches, if you have any other questions for Coach, because we are getting close on time, I put his Twitter in the chat, and then the Coach has also got all of his contact information on the screen. Coach, honestly, that you did a fantastic job. Great opening to this last one I'm doing this off season, quote unquote. Because some people I know are technically in spring ball, whatever. Those of you that are fortunate at southern states that get to have that, we don't get that here. But no, seriously though, Coach, great job. Coaches, give him a follow. If you have any questions, please reach out to Coach. Coach did a great job, and I thought that was one of the. And this is not me just saying it because he's on, but that's generally one of the better, like a little more detailed ones on some of the Gallop stuff. I know that stuff's not always easy to find, and Coach did a great job there, kind of explaining stuff and having his presentation prepared. So thank you, Coach. Appreciate you. And I think we'll move on with our second speaker.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Coach Malone, are you there? Can you hear me?
You're going to be able to share for me, right?
Yep, I got you. That's what I'm trying to.
Just contact info, and then we'll do ready list should be 2, and install plan should be 3.
Yep. All right. Let me do my little spiel, Coach, and then you can kind of get started. And I think by the time I do my spiel, we will be perfectly on time, which typically does not always happen. You know how these go. Like live, online, you're never on time after a certain point. And then while you're talking, I'll tweet all the stuff out that you're starting. Coach and me have played tag for the past, I don't know, all off season. Tried to either do podcasts or clinics. Our schedules have never worked. Like either my daughter's doing something, just been horrendous. We can DM like no other, but our schedules have not aligned. So it is great being able to get him on. Coach Malone is the quarterback coach at Rockmart High School. He's going to talk a little bit about creating an offensive install plan from a master ready list and a Friday night call sheet. I think something I've kind of really, as I'm transitioning back from being a head coach to an OC, stuff I've been really looking at the past couple weeks after I've been made it official. So, Coach, kind of the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Nicholas, thanks, man. And yeah, we can DM like crazy. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here. So currently I'm the quarterbacks coach at Rockmart High School in Rockmart, Georgia. It's an honor to be able to represent the Yellow Jacket football program and everything that they've stood for 100 years. That's my contact information, cell phone number, email address is there, along with my Twitter. Don't take any notes. Anything you want from this or anything else that I've gotten, you're more than welcome to. Just hit me up and reach out to me. So what I want to do, and it's not really sexy, you can kind of see I've got gray hair. So young guys love to talk, a specific play or a route or a concept. But for me, as I've gotten older, I feel like I have my beliefs offensively, run game, pass game, etc. But I'm always intrigued and interested by what people do in regards to breaking down an opponent and how they take a call sheet or their game plan or whatever, and they go backwards and install it starting in the spring. And I've spent my whole career in the South, so we do get spring football. So anyway, Coach, if you'll go ahead and flip it to the ready list, that second sheet, and then we'll kind of jump in right here. Again, our Friday night call sheet looks like for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have this out looking at it constantly. I've been calling plays since 2003. This past season is the first year I didn't call plays since 2003. I've been either a head coach or a coordinator, every year since 2003 up until this season. But it was a really cool thing to jump into the program I'm in and just coach quarterbacks and have input into the offense and whatnot, but see it from a different lens, truthfully. So anyway, this is what a Friday night call sheet for me would look like. It's color coded, laid out. We're going to talk about it for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to dive into the install plan and then open it up for questions. And like I said, you want any of this, you just hit me up. So basically, the red section are going to be run plays and our RPO tags. Now, I will say this. I am a big believer in less is more, with the exception of the offseason, and I'll kind of circle back around to that. So this offensive master ready list, think about it as a playbook table of contents. So that's everything that's in the system that I would run, right? Everything, every tag, everything we would do, and so situational different things, stuff like that. And so when we go into an off season and we're studying, we're in that study phase where January, February, March kind of transition into April. You're looking at all these ideas. I'm constantly flooding them into this master ready list so that I can come back and right before spring football and kind of get an idea of, okay, what's going to stick, what's us, what isn't us, what's going to fit our kids, and then start pulling things out or maybe adding something in. And so that's what this is. This is just think playbook, table of contents. It's all inclusive. So everything we have, every idea or note we can put in, we can funnel into this in the off season. And I love the term less is more. I use the term expensive. I don't like things that are expensive. I like things that can be taught easily, coached easily, that play off of, or piggyback off of something we already do. I love to walk out on the field and tell a quarterback, hey man, this is the same as with this tweak or whatever. But when we start building this in the offseason, this call sheet, this Friday night call sheet, and I know this is the whole point of this is to work backwards. But I want to look at it as a more is more, not less is more. More is more. We're going to throw everything that we think we want to carry or have in our offense in this document through January, through late March, early April. And then when we round into spring football, then we're going to start pulling things out. All right, so red section, upper left-hand corner, all run game, and our RPOs. I'm a big believer in carrying 3 run schemes only. I know when I talk to coaches a lot, I get the funny side-eye looks when I say that. But I think 3 run schemes is truly what a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid can learn, comprehend, and walk out on the field and apply and execute. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't bleed them dry. We are going to take these 3 run schemes. We are going to bleed them dry. We're going to tag them as much as we can tag them, but we're not going to change the total integrity of the run play. We're going to try to run it to everybody. So, for example, wide zone has been a staple run for me as a play caller for a lot of years. But we're going to run that to our main running back. We're going to run it to our hybrid running back, who's a slot player in our system called F. We're going to run it to the X and the Z receivers as jet sweeps. If we have athletic tight end, we'll run it to him. We're going to do as much as we can with each of these run schemes with as many players as we can. That is a huge belief of mine. All right. So I won't go into all the details of down each column, but basically inside zone is the first one. And we're going to carry, quarterback inside zone, tailback inside zone, or T in our system, F being our hybrid little running back. Think wing T slot that lines up in the backfield, in the sidecar, or out at a receiver position. And all the tags that we can tag with it. All right, so you can kind of see that first column. Second column is wide zone. Third column is gap runs. Now, this is somewhere where I'll probably differ a little bit from most coaches. I like to differentiate between power and counter. And so we're going to carry one of those per year. And we're going to allow our players' strengths to dictate it. So I'll give you an example of how we would make that decision. We walk out, before we go out to spring football, and we're like, okay, we have a tight end that's a true thumper, sniffer guy that can line up in the B gap and can really step up and kick out a defensive end. Then, okay, we can be a power team. We have that player. If we don't have that player, but we have guards that can pull and kick, then, okay, we'll be a counter team. If we have tackles that can really pull along with those guards can kick, then maybe we need to look at being a counter tray team, right? We're going to look at those and we're going to determine what we can do. And I've never been one that was a big fan of carrying power, counter tray, all of them. And I know the argument, well, man, the play side's all gap down and, we're going to keep it simple. Or as Coach Wille just talked about, hey, we can double team and Gallop and all that down this play side. But to me, it's a different run play. And so we're going to decide that. Now, let's say we don't have a tight end that can kick and we don't have guards that can pull and kick either, but we think that we've got a quarterback that can run, then we want to carry power read, and that's the option section you'll see there in that far right red column. We'll carry power read, and we're going to carry it three different ways because, or we will carry three ways. We'll have it in the ready list, but we're going to try to find the best one, the traditional Cam Newton, Auburn power read, shuffle, attack downhill. Or we can run it as speed option, or we can run it as dive option, all kind of looking like front side veer. So we're going to kind of determine what we do with those per year. And I'll kind of backtrack for a second. Inside zone could very well be ISO back in the day. That was something that we used to carry. That was an ISO run for us as opposed to inside zone. Wide zone in the past has been pin pull. Now our wide zone is, to quote a guy that I worked with, it's a Frankenstein run. It's truly wide zone, pin, pull, buck sweep, all rolled into one little package. I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking to coaches, honestly, throughout the country about that. So that's our run. That's our run thing. Then we've got the RPO tags built in there too. So on a Friday night, all that's there. Slide over to the purple section. That's passes. Purple P passes. Our quick game column, our full field column, which is our full field is generally going to be. We can either mirror things up or, whatever. Just those are traditional, basic concepts that I think everybody runs. Our shot series, we've always, living in Tennessee and growing up around the South and Southeastern Conference football, and I've had friends that played at Vanderbilt and coached at Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's never been very good in football. And so for Vanderbilt to be good, they have to take shots, is what we say. So we like to name a lot of our shot plays out of Vanderbilt. So you'll see Vipers, 4 verts for us. Panthers is a trail wheel play, but then you've got Vandy Commodore, Admiral, and Money. Vanderbilt's a very wealthy school. So those are all of our shot plays built in there. Our nakeds, we used to carry a bunch of different nakeds. We really hammered that down to just 2 or 3 now. We've got our screen tags over there and all of our protections. So all that stuff, it runs and passes are all there on a Friday night call sheet. The next one down is the orange section. If anybody ever comes to talk offense with me, I think that's the one section that we've always done a really good job of, is the orange section in our system. We call that operations. I feel like offensively, you can only control 2 things. Offensively, if you're a play caller, we can only control 2 things. Number one, we can control the picture that we present to a defense. That's a personnel formation, motion, splits. If you're into the Art Briles, Tennessee, Baylor, really wide split receivers, or if you're old school air raid, huge wide split offensive line, huddling, not huddling, signaling, not signaling, motion, shifts, trades. We control that picture, and we can control the tempo in which we present the picture. That's it. That's all we control offensively. And so I think you have to have a system in place. And that orange section is really and truly the system of which how we operate on offense, line up, shift, move around. So you'll see our sets. And it's funny, I was making some notes. I've got to reorganize this because I don't think it goes sequentially. Our sets, our personnel, our motions, our cadences, and you'll see those different position letters. That's our triggers. So we like to have trigger terms that tell specific players what to do. So our F, our hybrid running back, wide receiver, he's going to have a specific set of words that talk to him only. Our T, being our pistol back, is going to have specific words that talk to him only. Our Y, our tight end, specific words that put him in different spots. Our receivers and offensive line, all are going to have specific things that are going to talk to them and them alone. But then you go back to our motions. We teach the motions to everybody. We used to teach it differently, man. We used to teach like, if the X was going to motion across, that was exit. If the Z was motioning across, that was zoom. If the Y was motioning across, it was yo. And we just kind of got to the point where like, look, man, we're just going to simply tag who's running motion, who's running jet sweep, who's running this or that. And then we'll just tag that specific player and have those uniform, universal terms for everybody. So that's our operation, formation, motion section there. Our blue section is going to be a little bit more situational based for us. Titans being a 2 tight end personnel grouping for us, but those are specific situations we use that in. Goal line personnel, those are just the different goal lines we can get in. What is our 2-minute stuff? What are our 2-point plays? What is our Hail Mary system? What are we bringing in there? When are we going for 2? That's kind of a situational section in the call sheet. Our specials are in yellow, any kind of trick play, junk play, whatever you want to call them. And then our play caller thing, the kids just need to understand, look, man, 3rd and 4, we're needing 4 yards. Coach is calling this play. And again, I know I'm in the minority. I know there's people listening to this right now, turning it off. I understand that. But to me, it's expensive, man. That's just extra time that we're going to be simply calling plays. I don't want our kids getting tore up over a situation. They don't need to, I just don't think they need to know if it's 3rd and 6, it's a 2-down territory for me. They don't need to know that. They just need to know coach is calling plays and we're trying to get 6 yards. That's it. So that's our call sheet on Friday night. So if we're in a game plan on Sunday and we've gone through and looked at different things, that call sheet is a Google Doc. We all have access to it. Basically, all I need to do is if we go in that week and our starting quarterback's kind of hurt and our backup's absolutely out, we're not going to run quarterback runs. So we start removing them from the run section. If there are RPOs that we just don't like versus that opponent for whatever the reason, we're going to pull those out. If we're not running options that week because the quarterback's hurt, they're gone. And then you can just see how we're just going to start pulling that stuff out. Passes. We don't like slant flat this week for whatever the reason. It's gone. It's out. We're not going to do that. And then, so that's going to be a Sunday game plan. This document that you're looking at is going to completely look different. It's going to be way scaled back. As I said earlier, more is more in the offseason. And then we're going to get rid of that bad boy and start honing it down to what we're doing that week. And so then we can just plug, pull. If something new's going in, I'm going to mandate something's got to come out. I don't want to ever get too much. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned in coaching was after the 2018 season. We were not great at the school I was at, personnel-wise, offensively. And we were always every week trying to create chunk plays and different things. And then we just kind of went to that offseason and said, you know what? Less is more, man. We got to be us. And that was the quote, just be us. Focus on us. Offensively, what we do is way more important than what the defense does. They're going to line up how they line up. They're going to blitz how they blitz. We have to execute and operate, and that's what's more important. So I don't want our kids ever getting so caught up in, they do this, they do this. We're going to understand their personnel and their scheme, but we're just more about us. So that is our ready list. That's a call sheet on Friday night. You can see I'm wearing glasses. I've gotten older, and so I've got that bad boy split into a 2-page call sheet too, so I can flip it, and it's bigger writing. Honestly, that's all that is. So anyway, that's the ready list. That's where we're going to. That's a Friday night call sheet. Now let's work backwards, Coach. If you'll put it on to that installation plan, that next one we'll kind of start landing this plane a little bit. Okay, so this is our master offensive installation schedule. It's laid out in the exact same colors down the left-hand column that you've seen on the master ready list. All right, so that call sheet that we use on Friday night, these colors coincide and match up with it. So, and then up across the top, you'll see day 1, day 2, day 3, going all the way to day 8. This is just an old gray-haired coach belief. Don't ever put the date. Don't put as day 1. Don't put May 1, because as soon as you write May 1, I'm superstitious. It's going to rain. It's going to lightning. You're going to have a tornado warning, especially in the South. So don't ever put a date. Just put day 1. All right. And so my belief is when we're looking at an installation plan, we're going to lay it out in an 8-day format. Now, I know I sat in some clinics at Clemson this offseason. Their offensive coordinator's an air raid guy. We're going to do it in 3 days. And then we're going to do it again in 3. And I get it. And that's great. That's great for them. I would much rather go a little slower, be a little more methodical, and throw specific things at them sequentially day by day, as I would throwing it all in 3 days. And then we're going to come back and do it again and do it again. I'd rather it just go really slow. So we're going to start with day 1 and work that column down. So the first thing you'll see, day 1 is on the upper left-hand corner there, day 1, and then working that column down. So we've got sets. So we're going to put in our tight end sets where the tight end is on the ball, right and left. That's traditional pro in football language. Rex and Lex would be pro flex. So now he's on the ball, but he's flexed out 6-7 yards. All right, so we're going to put day 1, the 2 formations we're going to put in are going to be formations where the tight end is on the ball. We have no tags, formation tags going in day 1. No motions go in day 1. We do have triggers day 1. We're going to put in triggers for our F, which is R and L, A and D, and we can put in our tailback triggers at and dog. Now, I will say this. A lot of those triggers, especially for our tailback, never get used. We like for him to be our pistol running back, run the football, play action pass, fit in protection, or we want to tear motion him out pre-snap. That's about all we'll do. But you can see, again, more is more. We're throwing everything on this bad boy to see what sticks. So those are our triggers for those specific running backs on day 1. Come down to runs. We're only going to put in wide zone day 1. That's it. No other run play day 1. Defensive coaches are licking their chops. They're going to suck on offense. That's fine. I don't care. This is a marathon, not a sprint. This is spring football install. So day 1, wide zone only. Day 1 RPO is smoke. Just the uncovered receiver, corners off. We're going to spit the ball out there quick. You've seen Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady do that a million times in the NFL. That's day 1. We're going to put in our basic protections day 1, 50 being 5-man protection empty and 60 being 6-man protection. We're man slot. So we're going to put in that day 1. We're going to put in one quick game day 1, Houston, which is all hitches. Funny story. Again, called football plays for a long time, man. And over the last 6-7 years, the number 1 call pass play and the number 1 highest completion play I've been a part of is all hitches. It is unbelievable how well it is. It's a great, easy thing to do. Believe in it completely. We're going to put in curl flat as our full field shot. We're going to put in our 4 verts on day 1. No nakeds, no screens. And we're going to talk a situation. And this is something where I think a lot of people, high school guys, get away from in spring ball. You have to start installing situations early on. I had a coaching mentor friend of mine that always said, like, his example was in working special teams, put the hardest crap in first. So he would start, instead of going out there and teaching kickoff and kickoff return, he's going to teach kickoff onside and kickoff return, onside return, day 1. That's a complicated situational issue. That's a tough one to do. There's a lot of pressure. Let's just be honest, everybody's nervous. The hairs on the back of your neck standing up. He teaches that day 1. So by the time they get to the season, those kids have done it multiple times, right? So I believe that. So our situation is going to be sugar huddle day 1. So we're going to teach the old Gus Malzahn 2 yards from the ball. Everybody bunch, huddle up, get the signal, bam, get out. We're not going to overcoach it. We're just going to tell them, get in the huddle, get where you can see the signal it out. Quarterback's going to say, ready, break, boom, we're up fast as we can and go. So we're going to teach that situation day 1, no trick plays. Let's slide over to day 2. So now we're going to work rocket, locket, razor, laser, which are sets. Those are tight end off the ball sets. We're trying to work sequentially. No tags. Motions. We've got jet motion. Then we've got our sugar huddle we can put in because we put it in as a situation day 1. Putting in some different run triggers day 1 for our running backs. Now we're going to stick with our wide zone day 1, day 2. We're only going to carry that. We're going to run wide zone for 2 straight days. But now we're going to start adding jet sweeps from receivers, adding some tags on the backside. We're going to do some different things to dress it up, but it's still just wide zone blocking. And as I said earlier, we That wide zone for us is wide zone, pin pull, buck sweep. It can be anything depending on how the defense aligns and how we make a call. We're going to put in a rip and liz RPO, which is a stacked RPO day 2. We're going to add a little play action tag that I stole from our head coach where I'm at now, ride for protection on day 2. We're going to put in our rub quick game, our spot, which is nothing but, as Noel Mazzoni's 2-man, 3-man snag. We're going to put in Vandy, which is nothing but dig inside a post route. No nakeds, no screens. And then the second situation day is quarterback sneak. How many people wait until the week of the game, if you're not an under center team, to put quarterback sneak in and put victory in? So we're going to put those in the spring and touch on them. All right, day 3, you can I'm not going to keep boring you guys working through all this, but basically the plan is this. We're going to go through this 8 days in the spring. 8 days in the spring. We're going to follow this as much to the letter as we possibly can. We'll go in each day, make sure we highlight the things we got. If something didn't get in, it bumps to the next day, and that bumps that next day out, and everything just goes like that. But we're going to go through this in 8 days. And then we're going to come back in June, and we're going to follow this exact same plan again, and we're going to move it to 7 days. So I've got this thing reworked to go 7-day install. We feel like we should be able to do that. Spring ball's in May. And we get a break for final exams. And then we go and we hit June. We're going to go through it 8 days again. Bam, 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 bam. And then we're going to get to July. And we're going to go 8 days in the spring, 7 days in June. Then we're going to condense it to 6 days in July. We should be able to do that. These kids have already been through it now twice. They understand it. We're picking it up a little bit. So 8 in spring football, 7 in June, 6 in July. Then we get to fall camp, and we should have this down to 5. I did a podcast earlier this offseason, and one of the guys was like, Coach, do you ever mix up the install? No. Well, our defensive guys would know. I don't care. We're focused more on what we're doing. It's more about us. Just be us. I don't care what the defense is doing, and that's how we do that. All right. So that is our installation plan. We really kind of believe in it. I love how it's kind of organically morphed itself over time. I didn't do the situations in the past. That just came about in the last few years. Adding the special plays, we never did that in the spring. We would never do those things. But we're going to kind of lay this thing out and try to hit every single solitary thing on it in an 8-day install. And then we're going to just go back and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it so that we can be organized with it. And then we can also take it and we can transform it and move it to like a calendar in the sense of when did we hit quarterback sneak? Well, we hit it in May 17th. All right, put that on a little checklist. May 17th, QB sneak. When did we hit it in June? We hit it June 10th sneak. We're 2 minute. We're take a safety, Hail Mary, overtime victory. Something. And I heard him say, we've played in 2 overtime games in the last 5 years. I think we played in 3 this year, 1 being the state championship game, and it went to triple overtime. So you start thinking about, trying to talk about overtime and I can't lie. I was thinking like, okay, now do we start? I'm in Georgia now, not Tennessee. Do we start on the 15? Do we start on the 10? Do we start on the 20? Go through those situations and really hammer them down. But I think more importantly, go through them so they don't freak your kids out, right? Now go through them so that, I'm guilty. I'll raise my hand. I'm guilty as a head football coach and a coordinator forever. Victory went in on Thursday morning or Thursday before game 1. That's when victory got put in. Well, what happens if you go up and take that snap and you fumble it, who's diving on it, whatever. So let's go ahead and do it in the spring. Let's go ahead and hit it throughout the summer. Let's hit it in fall camp so we're ready for that situation. And I think this is where you get coaches on your staff with experience, start asking them questions. We worked this year at Rockmart. We worked free kick because one of our guys had experienced it at a previous stop. Okay, we fair caught the punt, boom, let's work our free kick situation. That kind of stuff can win you a football game. People talk about Bill Belichick, hate him, love him, why he's not employed, but there's not a football coach in history that understands situational football. So I think I'm supposed to go to 2:30. I got about 4 minutes, Coach. We can fire off any question. I don't know if you got anything else. That's pretty much it. If you want it, I'll be glad to share every bit of this with you. Text me, email me, DM me, whatever.
Well, while we talk, who are currently watching this, we've had a bunch of people jump on and off for both presentations. Right. And anybody who watches this back, whether it's the full stream or when I can do all that lovely jazz. My question for you, like, and somebody can jump in the chat on YouTube if they want, but if they don't, is your master install list, like, obviously, and I'll go back to it real quick, is got 8 days there.
Yep.
And I get some of your scheme changes a little bit year to year. If you're a good school, you might take something out, add something, blah, blah, blah. How much do you as a staff tinker with this list year to year? Like, is it pretty like set in stone year to year, or, and I know personnel adjusts that a little bit, but if you got mostly returning personnel, is it that, or do you look at maybe like the whole thing every year and be like, hey, we're just going to restart from point A? Like, how do you, when you're putting the installation schedule together year to year, how much are you tinkering with it?
We're going to do it 2 different ways. Number one is we're going to tinker with it all the time. Like it is a living, breathing document. So it's going to be tinkered with constantly through the off season. Then once we kind of get settled on it, then there are some nuts and bolts of it that really are untouchable. You know, starting in the orange section, for example, we're going to be very methodical about our formation and trigger and motion installs, because I feel like they build off each other. So they scaffold each other. But I also think that just from trial and error of doing it, understanding how we can get into some same as this, same as that. So that's going to be pretty constant year in and year out. But like I'm sure everybody else on this chat and anywhere else probably is adding the motion that the Dolphins did this year with Tyreek Hill, where they would burst him out, and So all right, well we're going to try to add that. You can see day 7. That's hop. That's hop. Got an O in it, so it's outside. So stuff like that comes about, and you add it. But I'll jump into the run section, the reds. Let's say we're not going to run any kind of that wide zone that we run, but we want to run buck sweep. So buck sweep's going to be our number 1 play. That's what it was at Rockmart. That should be the number 1 run put in. Or go back to 2015-16, when I was a head coach in Tennessee, and pin pull was really our number 1 run play. So that can change based off personnel, off personality, off of and then in the passing game specifically, it's going to always build off what can the quarterback do well. What's he good at? What's he suck at? And if we go back to even the master ready list, the Friday night call sheet, somewhere about Wednesday, I'm going to get with the quarterbacks, be like, the starter, be like, what do you hate? Hand him a copy of it and say, here's a Sharpie. Mark out the things you hate. It doesn't do me any good to call it if it's my favorite pass play, but he hates it. Right. So then we're going to, at that week it's out. Then we're going to come back in next week and kind of figure it out. But no, man, it's a living, breathing document. Everybody has access to us. We can change it as we need to change it, move it around as we need to move it around. And it's year to year, man. It really, truly is. And it can even be section to section. Spring went this way. We didn't like it. Let's look at June and maybe bounce this to here. And this goes first, and this goes back, and go from there.
Well, perfect, Coach. Well, again, coaches, don't hesitate to reach out to Coach. Like I said, I put his information back on the screen. I put his Twitter in the chat. If you have any questions, get a hold of him. Coach, personal preference, phone, email, or Twitter. What is your personal contact preference?
Tweet me or text me. DM me on Twitter or text me.
Okay.
I'm not great on it. I don't check email all the time.
Okay, that's perfect, Coach. And then so coaches, reach out to him if you need him. Coach did a great job. And then, like, if you got any further questions, again, Coach will send you all this. Like I said, I have in my personal email. He sent it to me, obviously, to do this, but still, like, it's made me. I have a general one that I have together for this year, but like I said, it's making me look at maybe tweaking some stuff before we get to that. We have a couple weeks. So, other than that, Coach, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Love it. Appreciate it.
And then, all right, Coach James.
Sounds good.
As I try to close out some things so it's not creating any lag for us.
I'm looking plan. Make sure I can pull my stuff up.
Okay, Coach. While Coach is pulling that up, I'm going to introduce my friend. Like I said, it's been a while since he's been on. Actually, has it been? It's been almost, I think, 2 years since you've been on here.
Yeah,
I
Coach.
think,
It's been busy. And I've been living life, raising kids. You know, that's just what it is. And then just coaching away. So
yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity and staying in touch and the resources, because you've helped me out over the years. Whenever I've needed something, you're right there. You send me a response. So I appreciate it, man.
No problem. Well, I'm gonna let Coach get started because, again, it's not about me. Coach James is an assistant at San Antonio Sotomayor High School in the great state of Texas. Actually, in the great state of not great state, great city of San Antonio. My favorite place. Actually, speaking of which, I need to talk to you because I won't be down in that area in July, so we can get some lunch or something. I need to remember. Coach is going to talk formations and adding the run game. Coach, the floor is yours.
I appreciate it. Well, once again, thanks, Coach, for having me. I have a lot of stuff to talk about, and that window we have. So I'll kind of get started. So when Coach asked me to do this, we talked about formations and adding numbers to the run game. So anytime we want to do that, I just think that your game plan, where it starts, everything else, the first thing, like let me see here, Coach Malone, who was just on, love his organization, right? I'm huge. I don't always work with people that are huge with the organizational part, but I am. And for me, in my mind, I have to I got to put it in sections, right? Organize it so that way I can organize it in my brain to get it out. So the first place before you even start with formations is you got to have, your base schemes, right? What do you think your kids are good at? There's so many of them, and it's funny. I just had a conversation with Coach last night, and we went round and round about about answers, right? Answers to what the defense is doing to you. And whenever I would ask him, I was like, okay, what are our answers if this happens? All right. He says, oh, well, I'm going to run trap, right? Or I'm going to do this. I was like, well, that's another play. I'm like Coach Malone and a lot of other coaches probably out there. I'm not a big, well, unless that's part of your system, right? I'm a wing T guy, things like that. If then, and that's already built in. To me, that's adding another play. That's adding stress. So you can read the quote I have below and kind of understand me, all about me. Good football teams can line up in their preferred formations and execute their base offense well, but great football teams create advantages by forcing the defense to move and align the way they want. I'm all about that. So once we have our base schemes in place, right, this is what I think we're going to be good at. I put it right here, offensive philosophy. That actually comes first, right? If you got to have a great philosophy before you can say this is what my schemes are going to be. And whenever I want to know if a guy's going to be organized or he's going to have, what kind of guy he's going to be, whether it's up tempo, whether he's going to have a lot of run things, a lot of passing things, ask him about their philosophy. That'll give it away. You're going to tell right here by me, I'm a simple guy. I like it. Okay, so be simple. Core offensive and core or base offensive scheme. I haven't put in there rule of 4. Okay, I know I've talked to a lot of coaches. Sometimes that rule of 4 and all those little areas of runs, drop backs, quicks, screens, all that stuff, sprint out. Like you can just put it on the rule of 4. Be multiple. In this day and age, defensive guys, I'll tell you what, and I'm going to tell you this, if you want to get smart or you want to become a smarter offensive play caller, then go to these clinics and sit in a defensive presentation. Because you can see how they're just getting smart. They're evolving as offenses evolve. And so I learned a lot about why they do what they do. So be multiple. You got to be multiple. I don't think unless you're just really, really good with the Jimmies and Joes, I don't think you can just go over there and line up. I've probably been on one team that I was like, man, we can just line up and we can just mash people or do what we want. That's it. 20 years in education and teaching, coaching. That's it. One team. So various motions, shifts or trades, formations, personnel, tempos, right? Those are all easy to do. And you can do these things if you're organized, right? If you have a simple mode of communication and you don't have a crap load of schemes. You got to be flexible, okay? that flexibility goes back in the same bucket as these other two about communication, right? Win the football numbers game by altering the formation structure. To the defense, it's going to be complex, right? Defense coordinators, I love it when I get these phone calls like, man, Coach James, what the hell are y'all doing over there, man? I've been up all night just trying to put everything in the computer to get a gauge on you. That's the biggest compliment as a play caller, in my opinion, that I can get as a coach, because if I'm stressing you out and you're having a hard time preparing for me, then that's part of the goal, right? Because especially if you don't have those Jimmys and Joes. So I want to always, this is always good, right? Players, I want to play fast, be physical, and I want them to execute. End of the day, that's what keeps your job. All right, so now we're going to jump into formation structures, right? So I want to preface this by saying, okay, everybody wants to run the ball, okay? I'm a high school football coach. Yeah, I want to coach college, but high school football coach. And I get it now, the air raid. I mean, man, I love it too. And some of the best passing schemes that I have as a play caller come from the air raid, because, you know, it's like when guys run the triple option, the flex bone or the wing T, it's like, okay, that's where all of us offensive play callers these days is just recycling through the spread or through whatever it is, whatever kind of play call you are. It's just recycling itself. So I like to steal from the best, but it starts with formations, okay? You got to know football, and you got to know where they like to line up against your formations. So I kind of try to put them in boxes, right? Organizational boxes. So for me, formation structures, right? There's balanced ones, right? 2x2, your doubles or things like that. Okay. Then you have different types of unbalanced. This is where you can start to get a little wild, right? So whenever I talk about unbalanced formations, it's not, you know, there's a whole bunch of things, right? You go regular unbalanced, you're just, you know, adding linemen in for skill guys and putting them to one side. You can go tackle over. You can be unbalanced and tackle over at the same time. You could be unbalanced by adding, you know, with the unbalanced with receivers, right? Or just receivers by themselves. So like even 3x1, a lot of people don't know that 3x1 is where you go from 2x2 to 3x1. They have to make an adjustment. If not, then you know you're going to attack the strong side. That's how my mind works. And in the passing game, right? And then that's how my mind works on the line of scrimmage. So there's different ways to affect the defense and how they line up. With your O-line up front, you can add guys, move guys over to one side, okay? Or with your wide receivers, your skill guys, you can move them. Number 3, you can either condense, right, or bunch those guys up. Add them to the run game. That's what we're getting to, right? Condense those guys. Add them to the run game if they're blockers, right? If they'll go up and they don't mind getting dirty. If you can't do that and you have some of those guys that don't want to block, do what the spread guys are doing. You can line up in a heavy personnel set, have 2 receivers over here on the other side, and add a quick screen on there, right? That quarterback just has to go up there and look at numbers. I'm going to run the ball, or I'm going to throw the quick screen, just looking at numbers, or leverage, right? Or matchups. Special backfield heavy, okay? I still call it diamond. I know some of the guys I coach would call it bone, but that's where you put those multiple guys in the backfield. And if you don't want to pull your linemen, right? Sometimes you play teams, they're just so good when they see a guard pull or they just fly over the top and they just mess up your world and they make it slow trading for your offense. So what we do, I just start putting more running backs in the backfield and I have them block like the linemen do. So we can zone up front, but you can use those running backs to go and ISO or lead around the backside, whatever you want to do. Is be creative, formational structures. All right, so here's kind of some of the things that I was talking about, right? Here are 2 balanced formations. You got 2x2, right? You can do this from like a spread look, 10 personnel, or you can drop down and do it out of 12 personnel, right? Some people will call this ace, right? So you got 2 tight ends in the game, 2 receivers off the line. It's still a balanced formation, and defense respond accordingly. They line up this way. Some people, they struggle this way, okay? To line up just by having 2 tight ends versus 2 inside receivers. It's different. They treat it different, okay? Now, this is where we get real funky, okay? Unbalanced formations, okay? So I kind of just mixed them all in here so I could chunk stuff on the screen for you. If you like, okay? And there can always be, you can always contact me and get these things, but I was out of place. For 20 years, I've been some places. I was out of place. We lined up like this, right? We called it fat right. Of course, fat left, we went the other way. But all this is we start off in a balanced big with 2 tights. So think of ace almost, except no receivers. And we play with 3 running backs, right? So what we did is we went unbalanced. So fat right is unbalanced and tackle over, all right, to the right. We create a 4-man edge. If they do not shift to cover gaps, if they're not gap sound to the strong side, what are you thinking as a play caller? Well, easy money. I'm going to attack the weak side. So you have here's what I'm going to do. If they do this, if they adjust or over adjust, some teams over adjust, then I'm going to go and I'm going to attack the weak side. Simple. That's what we did. With another formation, same time, right? Jumbo, we called it. This one's a little bit difficult for defense to sometimes, right? Because you still have 2 eligible guys back here, 2 eligibles up here. This is still kind of tackle over unbalanced, but you got a 3-man edge and you have a 4-man edge. So what is the defense going to do? They have to account for this 4-man edge somehow and take up gaps. So they're going to do it by using linebackers. Are they going to roll their secondary down? They have to decide what they want to do, and you got to figure out how to attack them. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Huge. Nobody ever seen this when we did this back in like 07. Okay, we put a 5-man edge up there. So we took out a running back, added a 5-man edge. Oh man! And teams, it's like, oh, they know how to adjust to fat. They slid one gap over, half a gap slide, but a huge, man, that's like, you really got to be knowing that this is a 5-man edge. So now you're putting pressure on your teenagers, right, to know and be able to identify how many linemen are there. And while they're worried about that, we're under center and we're snapping the ball. Good stuff. So now, fast forwarding, right, this is some of the stuff we're doing now. So now we've got a 21 personnel, okay, and we've got an unbalanced formation, right? We're still going to go tackle over, but we leave a wing, 2 eligibles backside, okay? And that's why this guy could be on the line of scrimmage. So there's just different things, right? Boot is nasty out of this, right? We always get guys loose out of boot, and people forget about that tight end all the time, especially when you zap over the Z. So get creative within your offense, but off of what you do. That's the most important thing I want to hammer home, is that it does not matter what your base schemes are, right? Figure out what you feel like that your core 5 offensive linemen are good at, that your quarterback can run, that your running back is good at. When you figure that out, okay, now just change up the presentation. Change up the presentation. Maybe you have extra linemen that are good. That's these years here. We had a lot of those big linemen, not a lot of skilled guys. Well, guess what? How do we get those other best guys in the game? Creating these formations. All right, so now more unbalanced. I'm telling you, defenses, I've never seen a formation until we did this last year. We called it yellow. But look at this, right? All of these guys right here. Now, the tight end is ineligible, but what it does to a defense, how will they defend this? And then what happens if you motion, right? If you shift, how are they going to adjust? Maroon, right? Kind of the same thing we had earlier with our Ram formation, but what ended up happening is now you have a tackle over, okay, but you have a twins out here that's eligible. So you got a 3-man edge, but you have 2 backside eligible receivers. So all different for the defense, okay? I love this one as well. We called it Raider, even though the tight end was dead, because our X was on and our Z was eligible on the side. But we have, there's this bubble in here, okay? How are they going to spin down and cover this? And then what happens if you go gun and you stack your backs and you run like a stretch the other way? Oh, no. So just knowing how, or seeing on film from game planning, or trying it out in the spring to see, how defenses react to how you line up. That's always the fun part. This is one probably people have seen, right? We call this blue wing. All right. So you got a wing over here, right? My boy, Kinnee Simpson. This is like his base formation. That's how they line up to run buck sweep. All right. So just different ways. All right, here's some other kind of condensed formations. So this is what I like to do as well. I threw in a little diamond. I'll talk about this one first. I threw this in here so I didn't have to make another slide, right? I was kind of putting some things together, right? Give you a whole bunch. And if you want more, just holler at me when we get off of this Zoom or whatever, and I can show you more. But this is one of my favorite formations is diamond, because there's different ways to go about it based on your personnel. Right, I've got 2 outside receivers, okay, and that I can go play catch with. So if you're going to man up, right, and you're going to bring those safeties down for run support or to fit these D gaps, well, guess what? I have a choice to make. If one year we were a power football team, these guys were not skilled guys. These are more like fullbacks or tight ends. Tight ends. So we put them up, these B gaps about a yard deep, and we ran power, we ran we booted, we reversed, right? And we had max protection and threw the ball. And man, I'm telling you, we scored points and teams could not stop us. Then another year, we didn't have those two big guys. So guess what we did? I still like the formation. So I put my 4 best skill guys, I put them all right here as far as running the ball, right? Quarterback to operate it, 2 receivers that could play catch. And we ran stretch, power, we ran, full sweep the other way. I mean, and because this is still a balanced formation, but we put 3 backs back here. Now, what we like to do, some of the things I learned to do that I love, is we will condense formations. I know people say bunch and condense. You think of maybe 10 personnel and bunching receivers out wide, a lot of, spread or RPO teams, they like doing it this way. Well, when I'm talking about adding numbers for the run game, squeeze them and bunch them, right? Squeeze them and bunch them together. And now, guess what? If these, let's say maybe just your X is your stud receiver. All right. Well, guess what? These guys are backup running backs or 2 tight ends. So you could line up. I can't even tell you what personnel. It changes every year. I just put our best guys here. And so now I can run, 1 back power this side, but I can, bring an extra puller. I can run counter and bring an extra puller, right? Listen, I can read this guy right here in the open gap, send everybody, and we can run Zorro or inside zone to the right. And then what colleges are doing now too is these guys are all responsible for blocking for the outside bubbles. There you go. So it just makes it tough. Down here, we've got, so this right here, we call this aqua bunch. This down here, we call this one right here, great bunch. And this was just our tight end trips, right? And what we did is we bunched them up tight, just like this. And the same thing. We're gonna pound you. We're gonna run toss. We can gap scheme. We can do whatever, right? And then when you start falling asleep, we hit your weak side, or we play action and we threw it deep to our best receiver out here. And then purple squeeze. This is just 2 by 2. We squeeze them together, and you've got all that run game. So the possibilities are endless. All right. So I talked to you about the what. I showed you a little bit about that. Now here's some of the why. When you add numbers to the run game, this is a little bit of the how, but why, right? Because we want to force the defense to align the way we want. When I'm looking at you on film and I see how you handle certain offensive formations, now I want to see what happens when those teams motion, they shift, they move. I want to see what you do, because you can also affect the formation structure by shifting and motioning. I love to do that. That should be part of everybody's game plan. How does the defense handle when you motion? A jet sweep motion, an orbit motion. That the new one's becoming famous is that little return motion when you're in man, hit the guy in the flat. So force them to line up the way you want and then screw them up. Take advantage of their alignment with core offensive schemes or plays. Guys, just because you line up this way doesn't mean you have to invent a new offense. Run what you run. Okay? And just put a trick for that week on. Add it just for that week. Sometimes we just like to carry one that we'll practice, and then we just put a little bells and whistles, and it's the same play, the same presentation, except this guy goes left, boom, and there you go. Okay, so you just like when you change up front, we had the fat right, fat left, and you change those alignment. The defense must adjust or else. If they do not slide their defensive front, then they're asking for trouble. If they do not adjust, you take advantage, and you have to be able to do this. And I think one of the most important things I've learned as a play caller, because I've been a head coach, I've been an offense coordinator, right? And I'm helping call offense now. So one of the things that I love is when I have other coaches like myself who experience and have that experience, if you can see it during the series, change it then, right? I saw it last series. I'm going to adjust this series. Okay. That's where you start. But then now, I line up in a formation on first down. I see they're leaving a lot of grass and space. We're outnumbered. So maybe second down, I run a play, but I come right back to that formation and I run the other play to go the other way, take advantage. Our answer to these adjustments, simple, change the formation structure with tags, tag your formation, the bunch, the condense, the tackle overs, whatever, motion shifts that you'll kill people. Tag your core offensive scheme. Don't worry about adding anything else. Just tag it, and only affects a few. But those 5 main guys, the offensive linemen that have to get it done in the trenches, their job remains the same, easy money. Also, another way to do it, right? Read defenders. You can flat defenders. You can double defenders, right? They say the old saying about the angles and leverage, and I get it. Sometimes I don't have big offensive linemen. A lot of times I'm in a district where you just get up there and dominate. So guess what? I like double teams. Double teams always make my heart flutter, right? So you can get two guys on there, one guy, and kind of whether it's a Gallop technique, a true double combo.
Get about 5 minutes, coach.
Got you. Boom. All right. So here we go. So now here's a little bit of how, right? So I want to show you a couple pictures. Outnumber them by using the gap run scheme, right, to bring extra blockers to the party. So you can see here we got an aqua, right? And then now we're going to run GH counter, boom. And we bring our Z around, right? We bring the X around too. So we just tag crews. Those guys are going. Quarterback is going to fake it to the tailback, and he's going to keep it. We outnumber him to the party. Okay? Here's another example. Make everything look similar, right? So we're doing the same action, but guess what? Now we're going to read this 5 technique, and these two guys are going to block for the stretch, but everybody else is cruising around and blocking for the Q keep on the GT. Bash concept. All right. Pre-snap motions, shifts. I talked about that. And then formations, right? So that's kind of some of those things I want to talk about with that deal. All right. And boom. So there's my share there. And then what I was going to do was get into some video. If I don't have time, coach, you just let me know.
You have roughly, I mean, so far there's no questions. So I would just go to the video, coach, for the next 5 or 6 minutes, and I'll let you just go. If I have a question or something pops up, I'll just shout it out. But so far you're good. Like I said,
so far I'm good.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes,
well, I'm gonna jump into the main one then.
Okay.
Boom. Let me share this screen, and then we'll go from here. Never seems like enough time, babe. I talk football all day. All right. So here's just some of the plays we're in, right? So I'm at a 6A high school, right? We're playing a pretty good football team, right? So we're kind of lining up. See if I get a little tighter view for you right here, right? So we line up, right? We set a little motion, okay? You can. Right? Do that. Move some linemen, right? We're just trying to outnumber them, trying to get the toss going, right? Just to get some numbers out on the edge. And you can see it's just kind of getting bodies. And I'm going to tell you right now, this running back right here, he ran for 1,200 yards and not a very good offensive line, right? Look at that. Look, I'll even give you a little end zone shot, right? Bodies just move. All we're doing is we're doing wide zone up front or stretch, but we're tossing it, but we're bringing people around. We motion that guy over there to the boundary and warm him out. Okay. All right. So here we just line up in it. Okay. So we're unbalanced. Line up in it. Run the toss again. Here we go. Another run. But it's all about numbers. If they over pursue, those running backs will see it. Those running backs will see when the guys over pursue. All right. See if I can get you a really good one here. Oh yeah. Look at this gold tray. So we're like in our ace formation. And we have 2 receivers over here to the side. Boom. Okay, so our quarterback looks out. They're counting. Look how many guys they have back. Kind of looking like it looks like a 3 safety deal, but see how they got all these guys deep? Hey, that's light box numbers. So we feel like we're winning. And this is freaking on 3rd down. Look at this run. 3rd down and long. Let's go. Right? That's how you do it. Just numbers. Right? Everybody here can count. Right? And that's all we're doing. Right? Now here's a gap scheme one, and I'll probably, if I get another one in, I will. But here's the gap scheme, right? Those were zone schemes. So gap schemes, set them up over here, right? We got all these bodies over here. And then guess what you can do? Bring them to the party. So when you're counting those numbers, guys are pulling. We're getting around, okay? We end up bouncing it outside. So we end up, the run ends up going into the boundary. One of my favorite, get guys in the backfield, right? Like we're reading it. That don't even look like it's a good play. Right? But still, it should be a good play. We've got numbers. So maybe the quarterback made a bad read. Oh, man, look at this. Where that gold tray again looks like. Okay, and we empty out the backfield just to see what happened. Right? And I don't know why the quarterback threw it there. Right? But we're basically just saying if somebody goes with him, which should be the read, then we know we're banging our lock or a little pipe bomb. Somebody goes. I don't know why he doesn't throw to this guy with all this room. But all we can do is lead the horse to water, but we can't make him drink. Okay? But that's still a good football play. So your goal is to get yourself in a good, advantageous football play every time. That's it. So boom, oh, look at that. So now we send the motion over here. Look at all these guys they bring over with the motion. We saw they brought all these guys, and then we're just gonna boot away. Look at these guys wide open. Right? So we got a guy, first down. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stop right there. I think that's good enough for you, Coach Bandstra. That's
that's
good
perfect,
timing
Coach.
right there.
No, you did great. Like I said, I mean, I'm all about formations. And now that's partially because I've been in I think I did the math the other year, said 13 years. I have had at least formation wise. I've either fully been in or had a set of either wing tee, double wing, or some sort of quote unquote old school offense. Like we ran some Maryland I this year.
There you go.
I think like 7 of my 13 years. I mean, there's only been, and it might even be more than that. I'd have to redo the math, but like there's only been a handful of years where we've been true full spread. Like it's not,
Absolutely.
I mean, and like even this year, like we'll be able to get in some stuff. That's just, again, that's more my philosophy and kind of fits into what you talked about and what Coach Malone talked about, especially when you're getting to either schools that historically have not been good, that are small, have smaller rosters than they play. You got to be able to formation people and
Absolutely.
And to be honest, like kind of Coach Malone talked about, and you've kind of piggybacked with your formation stuff, is you're not going to run 12 run schemes. You're going to have 3 or 4 you're really going to rely on. And the formation part is what you're going to force people. Do you have the checks and answers, or can you recognize, as you kind of point out, do you have do you recognize that's a 5-man surface or 4-man surface? Are somebody recognizing that, and how quickly are your kids recognizing that? That's the other thing. So like I said, Coach's Twitter is in the chat, but also it's on the screen. As long as his number. Coach is always easy to get a hold of. Me and Coach have known each other, I think 4 or 5 years, give or take now, somewhere in there.
Sure.
And I mean, we'll chat every off season, either one of us looking for something or needing help with something. And obviously Coach has got other stuff on my channel, but Coach will help you out however you can, just like I normally will. And so don't hesitate to reach out to Coach. And then Coach, like I said, I need to send you a DM. Once I know the dates, I'll let you know and see if anything matches up. But yeah,
Okay.
I'll be down there at least for a week or two. We get some lunch or something. But especially since you're so close. Like my mom's in Spring Branch in between by New Braunfels.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I said,
Yeah,
so I mean, and I'll probably fly into San Antonio directly. So like I said,
you live that good life.
I mean, anytime you can go to San Antonio, it's a good life, Coach. Like I said, the river, the river walk is God's paradise. I mean, that is beautiful. So, Coach, thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
And have a good rest of your Sunday, Coach.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I think Coach Gibbs is on. Coach, can you hear me? I figure out where I hid my phone. Coach, how you doing?
What's up, brother?
Nothing much. I'm trying to enjoy my Sunday here, listening to some ball before I have a coach's meeting after this. And
well, as soon as I get done here, man, I'm gonna watch the Knicks win Game 7 against the Pacers. So,
well, I mean, you are a very optimistic human being. I'm glad for that.
I am. Yep.
I see. I don't know. See, this is where it's hard. Like I mean, obviously I'm in Ohio, but I lived in Texas for a while, and I grew up essentially a Lakers fan because of Shaq and Kobe. So
that's not a bad thing.
No, like I mean, nowadays they'll say it's because of LeBron, and no, I ideally point out that it's because of Shaq and Kobe, and that highlight of the early 2000s and their rivalry against the Spurs was a thing of beauty. So it's hard for me to root for like the Knicks or the Pacers. It'd be nice to see either one of them, because again, past several years have not been kind to either organization. So
no, it was kind of funny. I was listening to it, when I was growing up, Mike and the Mad Dog, I being from New Jersey, listening to Mike and the Mad Dog, and then, Craig Carton and Boomer before Carton got his little timeout from WFAN. But he did say something the other day, and he said 20 years ago was 94, and 30 years ago was 94, that
the Knicks and Rangers were the same exact seeds that they were now. And the Rangers obviously now are in the conference finals. The Knicks win today, they're in the conference finals. And then obviously the Rangers had won the cup in 94. The Knicks went to the finals and lost to the Rockets. But we'll see. I mean, listen, game 7, I mean, you got to win it, and there you go.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like I said, at least they got a chance. Everybody's got a you got to play hard.
Shoot, man, you just win one game, and you rest up for a day, you get on the road, and giddy up.
Well, it's that time of year that you see who the real guys are. Like I said, like 82 games is a long season and all that jazz, but like, you're now put in pressure situations. So,
yeah.
But well, Coach, you can share your screen when you're ready. I'm gonna do my little intro, and
Sure.
And then you will have your give or take 30 minutes. And coaches, obviously, I can't keep track of how many people have been in and out at this point. Like I said, YouTube shows me various 18 different statistics, and they go back and forth, going up and down every 5 seconds because their algorithms and all that other jazz. But like I said, it's been a fairly good day. We've had a bunch of coaches on and off. On to our fourth speaker. Coach Gibbs has been on my channel a variety of times. Coach puts out a bunch of content in general. And you can find him on CoachTube, on his website, on 18 billion different other things, probably with me and other people he's been on. Coach is kind of like me. I mean, he'll help out people whenever he can. Coach is going to talk alignment and assignment against 10, 11 personnel out of his 3 high safety stuff. Coach has been talking a lot about that lately, and that's kind of what they've kind of moved to more as their base. And obviously, it's a great tool. Me and Coach have talked on and off screen about this stuff. Coach Gibbs, the floor is yours, my friend.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on, Coach. Anything I do to help, anybody that wants to kind of either, kind of go wholesale with this or kind of wants to have a package with it. But, my name is Coach PJ Gibbs. I work now at Community School down here in Naples, Florida, which is a private school. I got hired about 2 months ago. But if you're looking for a defense that you can be multiple with, that you can not sub personnel, that you want to have athletes on the field, like us down in Florida, like I coached in New Jersey for 14 years. So I always equate the New Jersey player from the Florida player. Obviously, A, we get more reps down here because of spring football. B, like New Jersey, just like a bear, right? It hibernates. They get bit, like down here, deer and bear don't hibernate. I mean, those dudes are constantly running, they're moving, they're doing stuff. So we can run a little bit now. So I wanted to talk about alignment assignment and then some of the stuff we do differently against 10 and 11 personnel, and how you can have that extra hat and advantage in your scheme. So first things first, against 10 personnel, I'll just kind of go through personnel and responsibilities and, everything like that. And I'll have my contact information for anybody that wants to reach out about the system, installs, virtual install, whatever you guys want to do. So, so for us this year, like for the first time since 2020, we were really blessed to have, our nose is a Power 5 nose, Division II, Division I. And this kid's an underclassman. So we were very fortunate to have those 3 guys, which allowed us to do a lot more stuff in the back end. Your Mike and your Jack are basically pluggers. They at most of the time, they will have run support, whether it's backer or sky support outside of them, kind of forcing everything back into them. So that's why I tell both those guys they have the easiest job in America. Now, when you do the install, when you do this, the Mike is technically going to be the backer away from the back because he's going to be gapped up. Okay. The Jack is going to have a gap to the football. I'll go through all those schematics in a second. I just want to go through the personnel for you guys. Our Viper is like our hybrid guy. So the dog, the star, the spur, the nickel, the Sam, whatever you want to call that. I'm from the Don Brown School of Defense, so we use the term Viper. We do play boundary and field, corner safety. So our field guys are generally more the athletic, go up and get the football. Not as physical as the boundary guys, where our corner and safety, the boundary guys, because of the run into the boundary, hitch into the boundary, screen into the boundary. Those guys need a little bit to be a little bit more physical than our field guys. Now, this cat right here, our Rover, who's our middle safety, and I should have prefaced this in the beginning. we do not operate out of a 3-high look. We are a 3-safety defense, meaning we have a field safety, our middle safety, and boundary safety all on the field at the same time. Now, we will get into a 3-high look at times, whether that's 3rd and 7+ or tendencies and stuff like that. But for the most part, this rover, this guy has to be your dude. He has to be your cover number 3 vertical, tackle the quarterback one-on-one, play up on the line in your bare front, delay blitz. You're going to ask him to do a lot. So this guy technically is going to be the quarterback of your defense. So I get questions all the time. I did during clinic season. It was like, Coach, what type of person is this kid? I said, listen, it's 4th and 1 to win the state championship. You need to make a stop. Who do you want making a tackle? That's the guy that you want to put at your rover spot. And it's different for everybody, right? And again, whatever I'm giving you, I have more, but B, it's for you guys to take back and look at your personnel and say, okay, this kid best fits what we want to do. And I caution all the coaches to, like, it's great to want to do things, but like, what hand are you dealt, right? It's like, what type of guys do you have? Like, you may look at this whole package. Like, I can send you guys, we have 55 slides for our spring and fall from last year. You may like 18 of them and be really, really good at them. And, as a coach, good for you, because you're putting your kids in the best position to be successful. So let's talk about alignment to 10 personnel. So basically what we're going to do is we don't 2-gap our nose. Our base stuff, we're going to slant our nose away from the back. Our end here, we're going to be stand up, head up 4s. He's going to do 2 things depending on who you have. You can slant this kid, or you can have him by the inside half of that tackle. And obviously, if you get zone climbing, he's basically going to turn into a 3 technique with his hands. This end, you can play in a 5 or a head up 4, slanting in the B gap. We'll technically do that to start. So this Mike is understanding, like, hey, I have backer force outside. I have sky support here. I'm good. I can run to the football. To this side, because you're 3 over 2, technically you can do a couple things. Like, we either do our Tampa coverage, which is just old school Tampa 2, mandatory no outside release, playing our deep half, apex defender, hook to curl, run pass read from the tackle. Now, here's the thing is, in the RPO age, right? Okay. Is this guy an apex plus or apex minus player? Well, the back is away, so he's an apex minus player. So that means that he is not in the RPO read from the quarterback. All right. This guy right here, however, is in the RPO read for the quarterback. So this is where that middle safety comes in. So we'll play basically 2 versions of quarters. We'll play off quarters or press quarters. And then obviously everything's predicated off number 2 if we're playing off. True quarters, he'll be this quarter. He'll be this quarter. He'll take a vert. He'll take the out, so on and so forth. The middle safety will get his run pass read from the tackle, and he's at 8 yards, and all he's doing is hopping. He's not backpedaling. He's just active feet. We call it hot feet, right? Just kind of hopping. If we get, our offense likes to run this, power, pull the guard, the back comes across, the jack is the read, so he's running like heck. We tell him, go. You have help, go. Well, now the quarterback sees that he's going to pull the ball. Well, here's our low hole robber to steal that or separate that kid from the ball. All right, he's not accounted for in any of the RPO stuff. And if he is, good for us, because that's more practice time they're going to predicate on finding out where that kid is. If it's run, he is hopping. He is a inside zone to banana fit player. Now, the one thing with inside zone, and we'll practice this with our jacker and our rover, is for whatever reason, if this kid gets washed all the way down to the A gap, we tell our jack, do not run into the back of the same color jersey. So he'll just keep climbing to that next gap. So essentially he'll fit off the backside of the end, and then our rover will banana fit for the quarterback. So he's your quarterback player on inside zone. All right. And then again, we have numbers. If you take it, down the middle here, I mean, we're good here. We're good here. I don't know how many RPO coaches just want to hand the ball off. They want to pull it and get the ball out. I was listening to Coach, and that last one when I popped in, he showed the one clip where they motioned out to empty, and he's like, well, the quarterback should have thrown, and he's right. Like, nobody wanted with him. He should have hit the back into the boundary, and then now he's running for fun. So we predicate ourselves on numbers, and I got to say that we just don't sit in this. This is like I'm taking you guys through like week 1 install. I think last year we were 30% base, 70% pressure. And it's not like zero it out, let it rip, like, hey, we're just going to let it go pressure. We play a lot of simulators, fire zones, trap coverage pressures. Like we do a lot with our guys because we have the athleticism to do it. Okay. The next one is to trips. Okay. So I'll walk us through if they line up in 3x1, and I'll go back to the first picture and I'll talk about motion to the Viper and away from the Viper, kind of how we preface that. Okay. So this is it. Boom. They break the huddle. It's 3x1. All right. So this is our Apache check. So the box doesn't change. Okay. 5 technique or 4, whatever you guys feel based on your scouting report. You want to be in a squeeze spill, don't get reach guy, or you want them occupying the B gap and or the mic to have it. It's up to you guys. We'll talk about the trip side first. Nothing changes rule-wise here. We're Tampa, 3/2. The Rover has 3 control, meaning like a hitch. So if we got this loaded formation where the back was strong, we get a lot of this fake the inside zone, want to bang that number 3 on the hitch. We've already taken that away by alignment. Okay. Now we do have single receiver rules to the backside. So based on the receiver's width, okay, we will either trap it, invert it, or we'll bracket based on down distance and who that number 1 receiver is. So if this guy's really, really wide, our corner's gonna look at our safety and be like, man, I can't undercut one, take away the quick stuff, and add to the run late. So we're gonna go Indiana. We're gonna make basketball. We're gonna go Indiana. So we're gonna lock this corner right here, and we're gonna walk this safety down into the slant window, and it essentially becomes sky support. Now, if this alignment, the corner is like, you know what? Yeah, I can undercut one, take away the slant, and if I got like speed option this way, giddy up, I got to fit the run. And one thing I got to say about trap coverage, guys, is if you guys can implement it in high school football, it is phenomenal. Taking away the quick stuff, also getting a late hat to the run fit. I can't recommend it more. If you have another high school that runs it in your area, or a college guy that you know, or someplace you can go visit and learn it. It is a phenomenal coverage. And then again, if we want to bracket and play leverage, outside leverage to inside leverage on number 1 with a wheel alert for the jack here, or a peel alert in a sense, we'll do that based on down and distance and who this guy is, knowing they were going to try to give him the ball. Okay. Now, motion. So like day 3 or 4 of the install. All right, well, coach, what happens if they motion the 3x1 to the Viper, away from the Viper? All right. The beauty of these 2 checks is it keeps your best player in the box and free in the low hole, also in the run fit. So we get motion to the Viper. We're going to check old school 3 buzz. So this safety, the field safety, is going to insert over number 3. He has 3 up as 3. Essentially the same rule the Rover has here in Apache, if that makes sense. Okay. This corner is going to play basically match 3 in between 1 and 2. Get in between 1 and 2 and play that third. The Viper is going to push to the flat. Okay. We're going to lock up the corner on the backside. Now, this safety here is going to do what's called a scooch technique. So basically he's going to take 3 shuffle steps to the middle of the field while reading this tackle. That tackle is going to tell him, hey, it's pass, I got to get to the middle of the field. Hey, it's run, I have to come up and be the force or cutback defender. Either run to me, force, run away from me, cutback. Okay? And that's something that, like, and the thing, we start at every snap press too high. So literally in the beginning, I have to go behind my safeties and hold their jerseys. I don't want to show them because we're in the age of this and the fake clap and all this stuff. Like, hold your water, because we want to show open middle as much as possible, if that makes sense. Okay. Let me get to the film here, Coach.
Take your time, Coach.
Like,
I will say you have total 15. You have about 10 to 12 to be safe.
Okay, cool. No, I appreciate it. I'm trying to get to this this film here, and it's not.
Sometimes I'm about to say sometimes you have to unshare and reshare because Zoom is not always the most.
Yeah,
friendly.
I think we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah, you know how Zoom is. It's not the most friendliest device always. Man,
it's all good. Oh, here we go. Down to the bottom. Beautiful. You guys see that, Coach?
No.
How about now?
No, yep. Now we got it. Good.
Beautiful. Okay. Another way we could play trips is this flash check. Is basically we play 3/2 here, Tampa. Now, when I talked about trap before, okay, trap is we're going to undercut number one. Safety is going to get over top of one with eyes to one, not coach. I got to one and my back is turned and I'm looking at one, and now they're throwing like a little out cut or some type of short 7 cut. The Viper has number 2 upper in, okay, and then we're going to shuffle. So essentially, flash for this backside safety is the same technique as 3 buzz backside. So scooching, we're locked up here, and then these 2 guys got to talk based on alignment. So if this guy's really, really tight, we'll just check cone, and he'll take first out, he'll take first in. So that's just kind of the communication process you guys got to have. All right. So why the 3 safety defense? Okay. Numbers everywhere, athletes on the field, havoc created. We start everything out of press too high. Everything's simple. I don't want my guys thinking. I want them playing fast. And I grew up in the 4-3. Like I grew up in old school Virginia, like George Welsh 4-3. And even our pressures, everybody has a gap. So if something pops, we know, hey, this person missed it. He ran into somebody's back. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He didn't scrape to his backside gap. We know what's going on. And this is something I stress a lot during the clinic season when I was out speaking is everything's all about, I think there's a lot of coaches that say, we'll just adjust. We'll react to the offense. The hell with that. We're going to dictate to the offense. Like we're going to put numbers where you don't want them. Now we're going to stem. Now we're going to pressure. And we're not going to zero out pressure. We're going to trap pressure. We're going to fire zone pressure. We're going to bracket pressure. But we're going to give you multiple pressures out of the same look. So now when you're getting ready for the game, well, here's a look that has 7 different pressures out of it. So good luck getting ready for it. And then tempo. I think there's 2 kinds of tempo. I think there's Josh Heupel tempo, and I think there's one of my players is in digital computer design class, and I want to show you how many new cards that he had made up during the week, and they hurry to the line, and that kind of pressure too. We talked about motion checks, and I think the one thing that we do a really good job of on what we did this past year is we took away their best player. One of the things that we hang our hat on is havoc rate. I did not make this up. Coach Brown made it up when he was at Michigan. So we adopted it, and I think it's a great thing for your kids to be able to see. We had a 41% havoc rate this year. We finished with the best record in the history of the school. First conference title, first district championship, number 1 defense in the area, set a record for TFL, sacks, forced fumbles, and interceptions. How you calculate the havoc rate is you take, for every game, you take your sacks, your TFLs, your INTs, your forced fumbles, and your third down stops. You divide them over the number of total plays you were out there. And that's how you get your havoc rate. And then we gave a sticker based off of our goal for that week. Like if it was 30%, we won, we got a sticker. 40%, we got a sticker. If they got twice this year, we got over 50. So they got 2 stickers. So it's a great incentive-based program for the kids. All right. Let me see. I think this is why this isn't what I want it to be, Coach. I had the big New England pulled up, I believe. Nope, that's not it. All right. Talked about flash. Okay. So 11 personnel. Beautiful. Okay. So spread. All right. So 11 personnel. All right. So Viper's rules always go to the passing strength. Now he's in the RPO read, so he's got to slow play this. So we won't trap this because he has to slow play it so the quarterback will hand the ball off. All right. So we're Tampa here. We're basically zeroed out on this side. The end will go to a 5. Okay, the end will go to a 5 if the tight end is in the court. All right. We'll still play a 4 eye on the backside. Now the nose is slant. Tight end of the court will trump the back. Okay. So now we have a 5 technique. We now have our Y. We're zeroed out over here. Number 3 is here, so this is where our rover sits. All right, and then we're slow playing this. Okay, now going back to that picture of the trips. Okay, going back to that picture of the trips. Let me go back and go ahead and reshare this, Coach. All right, let's share this again. Boom, boom. Okay, going back to this picture of the trips. Now, if this Y was attached, nothing would change. Okay, so if this guy was in line, all the rover would do was move his alignment. Again, the one thing too for us is we're extremely consistent with our single receiver rules, whether it's trap, invert, or bracket. Okay, but I mean, to us, you know, we pride ourselves on numbers. We pride ourselves on preparation. You know, and Coach, do I got time to get in some pressure stuff?
Yeah. If you want to use the rest of your time, you're good.
Okay. What do I got? Like 4 minutes, 3 minutes?
Total 7.
7. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
If any questions pop up, I'll just yell them at you.
Cool. So here's a picture of the attached Y, guys. So again, 4 over 3, 3 over 2 with the corner, safety, and the jack. So we're solid here. And then once we nail this stuff down, we can get to a mint front, the 2x2. The only difference with the mint front is that if we get motion away from the Viper, is we're just going to check roll. So basically, we'll go 3 buzz to the Viper and roll away. So we'll jam really hard here. So we'll roll right, outside third, middle third, deep third, and then we'll have we'll have a flat defender here. Okay, so that's kind of the progression of before we put the pressure in. Now, out of the base stuff, you know, we talked about this rover being this guy, right? So we'll basically play, if we're going to play regular cover 3, which is our green, okay, we're going to insert the safety away from the Viper down. We're going to press bail into thirds, okay? We're basically man matching 2 here. So if 2's up or out, we're buying him, okay? We're going to take the rover, put him in the middle, and then we're going to insert the safety in between the mic and the jack. Basically, him and the rover, regular green, the rover would be the robber. This safety would get to the middle of the field. All right, now in green robber, all those guys are doing is flip-flopping responsibilities, if that makes sense. So only thing that changes is for those 2 guys, okay? Now, beautiful, here we go. So our Florida front, so we have Baylor, which is 3 down, Georgia, which is 4 down. This is our Florida front right here. So everybody covered up. All right. And the thing is, guys, once you do this enough with your kids, you don't even need, by the time we get to August after spring ball, we don't even need to call the Baylor, Georgia. They know that fire is out of the Florida front. So I just literally got to check fire. Boom. Those guys know, hey, we're stemming to this. What I could say is, if you guys have the resources, if you're going to be a stemming team, one of the things that we did the last 2 years is we charted when the opposing offense, when we got them scouted by a member of the freshman staff or, you know, somebody in the, you know, in the community, is put the play clock on at practice and say, hey, their average time of snap is 12 seconds on the play clock. So you want to stem at 14 because you know it's their high school offensive lineman, right? So, hey, man, if it's power, if it's gap scheme, or even if it's zone, hey, I know we're comboing here. Hey, I know it's down, kick out here. All of a sudden, it's linebackers are yelling move, and then boom, now you're in this front, and now the quarterback wants the ball. He's like, let's go, you know, we're ready to stop the ball. So this is fire and smoke out of our Florida front. And it's all, it could be 2 coverages, okay? It could be green, cover 3, or it could be black, cover 0 with a spy, and I'll explain that in a second. So fire is I, right? So that means we're getting inside pressure from the Viper. So the end of the Viper side knows he's edge contained. The mic is popping, okay, for this A gap, all right? Because we want to give a look. We're we're rushing 5, but it's a different 5 than what we're showing. All right, so he's going to blitz inside, and inside blitzers have no contained responsibility. Blitz with division, come under control, make a play. The nose is going to slant away from the back. Jack's going to take his B gap, edge contain. He's popping for A. These two guys are man matching 2. These guys are 1x7 inside leverage, basically taking verts. Now, you can play him in the middle, or you can say, hey, this guy will run with pressure. We just go black spy with him. So he pats his feet at 8, and basically wherever the quarterback goes, that's where that cat goes. But you're given a 3 across look, and it looks like we're in kind of like a bastardized version of cover 2 when we're really not. We're really either playing 3 or we're playing spy, okay? Now, the caveat to that out of the same look is smoke, all right? So now, hey, it's smoke lucky. This end knows he's inside now because the Viper has edge contain. Same job for the mic, same job for the nose. End is a B-gap player. Jack is looping for C, and your same structure down here, either cover 0 or cover 3 match, just depending on what you want to do, okay? Okay. A boundary pressure we run out of that look is Cincy. So as soon as the Viper hears Cincy, he's running to the field. So we're either trapping or playing Tampa 2 here. We have our same Florida look. Corners going, everybody's slammed to the field. Now, if we get motion to trips, this Jack has to detach because he's running down the middle of the field with number 3. We're going to trap the boundary. So this safety is our flat trap defender. He's our half defender, okay? And then we're playing either trap or Tampa 2 on that side. Coach, I didn't know if we had any questions or
nothing's popped up yet. But actually, we got about 2 minutes, so here's what I'll do. Coach, I mean, question for you. Obviously your website's the place to start, but like when you've gone through a bunch of fronts, coverages, smokes,
Yeah.
where do you typically start? Like, and what I mean by that is you've talked a lot of 10, 11 personnel. Where is your kind of like starting point for 10 and 11 personnel just in general? Like, obviously there's other factors that would go for it, but like spring or summer install, where is your like base point of everything you kind of showed today?
I mean, we're living here in slide 1 and slide 2. I mean, I tell our kids, like, we're not getting to the fun stuff unless we know, A, where to line up, where we fit in the run, and B, what our pass responsibilities are. And I got to say, the one thing I think that's really helped us is we've kind of gone away from 7-on-7. We've done all pattern match stuff. We've taken the ball out of the younger kids' hands. 2 reasons. 1 is we get a lot more reps. 2, program retention. We don't have the young quarterback that can't throw the 7 cut trying to throw the 7 cut to the young receiver, and that kid getting his clock cleaned by the senior safety that's going to Minnesota, if that makes sense. Like that's not making us any better. We want to get reps, right? And then what we'll do is we'll marry that into our pressure period. Well, now we're running our pressures pattern match. So now those, hey, let's say I'll go back to let me get to that smoke, that Cincy, Uno, flash. Let me get to okay, so like if we're gonna run Panther here, right? So we're trapping this. So these guys will go through their pressure stuff. Mike has 2 upper end, corners trapping, safety's over top, safety's over top. Rover's got 2 upper end. So now that quarterback, they can run the routes and those guys can see those routes. And then technically what we do is we'll take those routes from the pattern match period and mix them into teams. So, but now we're best on best as opposed to the young kids that maybe don't understand or we want, we want to get a quality rep. I know that our Rover, who is a full scholarship kid to D2 school, can knock the you-know-what out of this kid. I don't need to see that in practice. I need to see that he understands how he plays, a post route or how he plays a hitch route or how he plays a seam route, right? I don't need to see him just knock the air loving crap out of a 9th or a 10th grader, if that makes sense.
All right. Perfect, Coach. Well, I appreciate you. Coaches, if you need to get a hold of Coach, the best way literally is Twitter. His Twitter, I put it in the group chat. And I think it was at the beginning of this presentation, Coach had it. Like I said, the replay of this will be on once this is done, and then I'll cut all this stuff up later today or tomorrow, so coaches can find this. And then again, if you type in coach's name A on YouTube, B on CoachTube, C anywhere else, you'll probably find him or anything he's ever done. I mean, pretty much Coach gives out the what's the word I want to use? Keys to the house in the car there, as much as humanly possible. So, like, if you want to find stuff, reach out to Coach. Coach is a good dude. I've known Coach for years now. So, Coach, appreciate you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Good luck with the rest of the clinic, and we'll be talking soon.
Thanks, my man. Talk to you.
All right, buddy. Bye.
And we're going to kind of just transition on to our next speaker. Coach reached out to me when I think I had like one or two spots left, and we talked for a little bit. And so Coach is going to kind of try to transition smoothly into this. If Coach, you want to go ahead and share your screen while I do the whole spiel. I think you can hear me. Can you hear? Let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, Coach.
Got you, Coach. Coach is the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Maumee High School up there in northern middle of nowhere, Ohio. Coach is going to talk gap schemes and some RPOs as they kind of rebuild Maumee up there to what it should be. Coach, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I want to appreciate you for letting me come on and talk about this. That clinic before, the 3 high safety stuff was certainly interesting. Getting to listen to that, the coach talk about that. But no, just so what we're going to talk about is just, marrying RPOs with gap schemes. And at Maumee, when we got there, they were a heavy air raid team, right? They didn't really run the ball. So this was kind of our first year really implementing this system and some of the stuff that they do, or some of the stuff we do. And again, we're all gap scheme. Like we run mainly four of our run schemes. We run buck sweep, we run counter, we run power, and then we run, just the GY counter, right? Where we're pulling the backside wide. So those are the 4 ones that we mainly run here at Maumee. And again, just get into some of the rules and how we teach this. So again, we RPO to run the ball. I think a lot of teams, there's certainly a lot of options you can do with RPOing. But again, we only give our quarterback, 1 or 2 options every play, right? Because we want to run the ball. We want to limit the options and thinking. And then we'll RPO when teams start to, add an extra defender, right? If this, depending on the personnel, right? If it's, the 7th defender, it's the 8th defender, whatever it is, right? We're a big team of, we don't run the ball into bad numbers, right? And then obviously when you do all these RPOs, right, there's a lot of mesh and handling between the quarterback and the back. And, you got to have, good ball security. And we rep this a ton, in the winter and a ton in the spring, whether that's in the gym, right, or that's out on the field. So when we get into, the summer and that, we're able just to run this stuff full speed. And we're not having to mess or, teach that. And I'll get into how we, teach that mesh. And we've been pretty good at it. But again, it takes a lot of time. And then, give the quarterback freedom and a checklist, let them be confident. I think coaching, the RPOs, it's a unique thing because I think a lot of the times the quarterback can make a decision and he can be right and he can be wrong at the same time, right? So I think giving them freedom and letting them know that, hey, you have the show and you got the keys to the car is a big deal when you're running this. And then when we are doing our RPOs, our quarterback just needs to know, hey, can that defender make the tackle at 4 yards or less? That's really all we're concerned about. If we get a 4-yard run, right, on first and second down, and that's really when we call these RPOs, on our starter sheet or on our open field play calls, right? I mean, we just want to get 4 yards, right? That's efficient for us. And then if we're ever unsure, right, we get a weird look, hand the ball off. And then again, something we haven't had to do, but if we ever get a pull, we pull the ball and we get a muddy look, right, we'll just follow the back. I mean, it just turns into a quarterback run scheme. And then for us at Maumee, we have 4 different, RPOs that we do, types of RPOs that we'll run, right? I think everybody runs some type of variation of, the pre-snap RPO, right? The defense gives you, a gift, whether that's the single side or whether that's what we call, fixing the box, right? I mean, I think everyone does some sort of pre-snap RPO. The second one we'll do, and we haven't done a ton of this, is our first level. We're reading some type of first level defender, right? Typically, it's that defensive end, right? I know some teams will run inside zone, right, where they read the 3 tech. but it's just triple option principles. And then the bottom two are really the most popular ones that we've ran and we've had a lot of success with. So our flow RPOs is really when we're reading a backside player, right? Whether that's a backside linebacker, a safety, right? And again, because we pull so many guys, right? Because we're all a gap scheme, where we're pulling guards, tackle, whatever that is, right? A lot of the teams, right, they're well coached, right? They flow as soon as they see guards or someone pull. So that one's been really good for us attacking the backside of the defense. And then the isolation read for us is we're going to read whoever that second or third level defender is, right? Whether that's, again, depending on your personnel, that's the seventh or the eighth defender in the box, right? And we're going to give that quarterback, some rules when we are running the isolation reads for us. So getting on to the next thing. So I think a lot of people run RPOs. I don't know how many people, do a really good job of executing this. And it's expensive. Right? You got to spend a lot of time, whether that's in the winter, whether that's in the spring, and even throughout the, season of repping this stuff. So one of the things we'll do, right, with our quarterbacks, and again, I don't have all of our drills filmed, only being a year at Maumee, but this is the first drill we'll do with our quarterbacks. And really the key thing that we're teaching here, right, and again, when we start getting with the backs is, our quarterbacks, right? So they should have a nice solid stance, a nice knee bend in their knees, right? And the big thing is they want the ball with the tip down, right? So tip down to avoid any type of fumble, right? With the ball hitting an elbow of the back or anything like that. And then when we have the tip down, we want the ball at the belt buckle, and then they're going to ride to their back hip of every type of RPO we do, right? They should ride to their back hip. And again, we allow them to have a crow hop, right? Whether that's a 1-2 steps, whatever they're comfortable with, right? And we always want to have the ability to clean our cleats at the end. So any type of throw we're doing, whether that's isolation read, whether that's a flow read, we're always emphasizing, right, getting our hips back into a throwing position, right? And this is the same drill we will rep, and we'll rep. This is more of a flow read. You can see he's reading the backside, right? We'll do an isolation read, right? We're reading the front side where the hips have got to fully open when you're doing any type of front side RPO. So this is a drill that we'll do every single day. And the next progression of this drill, right, is getting the backs there, right, and giving them a read. So again, I don't have all of our drills filmed, but this is the same thing, right? And again, I would say when you get into this, and it's just our quarterbacks, running backs, and this is typically another quarterback for us, and you're starting to run these reads, I'd always say, right, don't always, commit to the run. Because I think in high school football, you get a lot of guys, a lot of teams that will give you some muddy looks, right? So give them muddy looks. Right, give them where, hey, maybe you don't move, or hey, maybe you fit the run really late, right? Just give them looks that they're going to see on Friday night. I think it's easy for you to say, hey, we're going to sprint into the box and you throw it, or hey, if I cover the flats, right, you go ahead and you just hand the ball off. So and when we do these drills, we're always looking, right, for muddy looks. Make it difficult, during practice, so it's easy, right, when we get to the game. And then this is one we run every single week when we get into the fall. So this is just our group RPO drill. Really, we split the guys. So typically we'll have the varsity quarterbacks. They'll start with the post-snap RPOs, and then our younger guys will start with the pre-snap RPOs. And I would say when you run this, make sure it's a coach out there. I mean, I've tried to do it with players, and it never ends up looking good. But again, so we'll have the backs here, the quarterbacks, right? And we just got two things going at once, right? So they're working a post-snap read over here with the two receiver side, right, 1-2. And there's a coach out there. And then we have our pre-snap stuff, and they're just working, right, a nice pre-snap, whether it's a gift, right, whether it's a fade, right? And then eventually we'll rotate these guys, right? And then we'll work our post-snap with a single side receiver. And then we'll work our pre-snap out over here on the two-man side. And again, this is a 10-minute period, and we're just trying to get as many reps as we can at this. And again, it's all typically me and our receivers coach out there giving them a look. But again, this is just rapid fire. It gets the receivers a lot of reps if you have a big team, right? And it gets our backs in the same thing. We're just giving them different looks based on, what we want them to do. So again, those are kind of the drills that we have and how we drill it and work it every single day. But now to get into some of the reads. So with our pre-snap stuff, we've certainly gone away from a lot of the pre-snap just because we run the ball so well. That a lot of teams, right, are in the one high looks, and then they try to take away a lot of your pre-snap stuff early. So again, when we run this stuff in our pre-snap and our isolation reads, right, our quarterback will have a checklist he goes to the line of scrimmage with, right? So his first thing he's going to do is he's going to check a single side gift, right? Do we have the ability just to throw a hitch at 5 yards, and the defense is giving us a gift, right? His second one we call is a fix the box, right? So their next one is the defense, whether that's that adjuster, that nickel player, is he too tight to the box, right? And we can throw a bubble out there. We can throw a hitch out there and take advantage of it. And the third one he's going to read is box numbers, right? Because, again, we don't run the ball into bad numbers. So if there's a +1 guy or there's too many guys in the box for us, it's as simple as, can your quarterback count? We need to be able to RPO, right? We need to be able to get rid of that ball. We don't believe in run the ball into bad boxes. And then, the fourth one is obviously, the post-snap read. And all we tell our quarterback, hey, is can that guy, whoever that +1 is, can he make the tackle, for 4 yards or less? So just getting into some of the film. Again, this was back when I was at Evergreen. So, again, we're in a 3-by-1, formation here at the tight end. And, again, right, so we look to the top. He's going to look, do I have a gift out there? I'd say certainly we do. Right. And he wouldn't be wrong necessarily if he did the fix the box side and he said, hey, that adjuster is really tight to the box. I want to throw this bubble. Right. So, again, and when we teach this stuff, especially any of our pre-snap stuff, there does not need to be a ride with the back. And typically you'll see our quarterback, he'll tap the back just to tell him, hey, get out of the way. I'm throwing the pre-snap. And again, just ripping it out there, right, for a big gain. Right. So, again, just going through his checklist, right, he'll look pre-snap, right? And, again, there's a lot of cushion here. There's 7 yards or more. And we normally, it depends based on, team and based on who that guy is out there. But we'll typically say at about 7 yards or more, that's when we want to rip that out there. And then, again, on the fix the box side, it's all dependent on how dangerous he thinks that guy is. But, again, this is a good read. He could have went both sides there. Okay, so our second one, right, same thing. We're back in a 3-by-1 look for us, right? So, again, over here, they were playing a lot of cover 2 over to this side, most of the game. So he was scared to go to the single side receiver. But again, here, same thing, right? We're running the ball, we're running buck sweep to the field, and the adjuster's really tight to the box. So we're going to say, hey, this is a fix the box problem, and we're going to rip the RPO out there on the bubble. And again, this is just taking advantage of us not wanting to run 5, 6. There's almost 7 guys in there, and he declared that guy as an 8th guy. So we definitely got to get rid of the ball here. Okay, and then again, just another example here, same thing. He's counting numbers in the box, right? 4, 5, 6, 7. He's saying, hey, this isn't a good look for us. Let's rip the bubble out there. Okay, and we don't do a ton of, again, I say, we don't do, and this is us at Maumee, we don't do a ton of these pre-snap stuff. Right here, we're in a tray formation. So obviously, right, if we're in a tray formation, we don't have a pre-snap. There's no single side. The tight end is part of our core when we're blocking it up. Okay, here he's reading box numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, and we attach the bubble on here, and we're going to take advantage of the same thing. And I would like us, teach point for the quarterback is, right, just get this ball out. I mean, there doesn't even need to be a play fake or anything, right? We're just taking this. This is like old school quick game, right? We just need to get the ball out. Right, and same thing, just taking advantage of any of the pre-snap gifts we get. Okay, so now getting to the fun stuff, right? And I think this is the stuff that can really take, your offense to the next level is our isolation reads. Okay, so any of our isolation reads is any type of we're reading any type of second or third level defender. Right, and here we're playing Eastwood, really good program, right? Always has a really good defense. They base out of the 4-4, and we told our quarterback, hey, if we get any 3-by-1, right, and they're going to have a +1 on the box, +1 guy in the box, right? Because this is 4-4. This is the 7th defender we're going to read. Okay, so again, for us, we have hitches on over here. That's our fix the box problem. And again, if he looks over here, he's pretty out there. So we're going to say we're not going to throw that here. This is a muddy look in the pre-snap with the we're running our glance over here. So if there was a pre-snap, he'd look over there. And here we're just flipping the read. Okay, so right now our post-snap now is to the glance side, and this is our pre-snap side. Okay, and all we're doing is we're running GT counter to the boundary. Okay, he sees that 7th defender commit to the box, right, and he goes and he rips the glance. Okay, and he does a really good job. Our quarterback does a really good job of right here flipping his hips. And this is what we want to see, right? So he's got to flip his whole body, and we say clean your cleats, right, and rip that ball. So this is just us running glance, right? We're tagged it with GT counter, right, for a touchdown. Okay, we go to the next clip here. Okay, same thing. We're in a 3-by-1 look. Okay, we're running GT counter to the boundary. Again, this was a weird front for us all game. They're fitting with this guy, so I told them, hey, let's count this guy as the 7th defender. Right, so they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, we're running our glance here to the boundary. A touchdown. So again, we're just not trying to run the ball into bad boxes. Now here, he certainly could have handed the ball off, and this would have been fine. 7th defender, right? Doesn't really get into the fit. He could have handed the ball if he would have been fine. And again, we just have our fix the box and our pre-snap RPO to the field. So again, just giving him, just a checklist every single play for what he needs to know, right, has been really good for us. Okay. So now we're in the same game. Okay. And here I probably would have told him, hey, we probably need to hand the ball off. But again, this is where I say you've got to let your quarterback somewhat be, a playmaker, somewhat be a gunslinger here. Because right here he says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to say he's necessarily part of the fit or a guy we need to be concerned about. So what does he do? He just rips. And I think when we talked about this, right, he sees a bunch of open grass over here. And we always talk about that, right? If you like the RPO or you think it's there, go ahead and rip it. And that's what he does, and again, for a touchdown. Okay, get into our next one. Okay, a little bit of a weird drone angle, from the defensive perspective. Okay, but now here we're just running power. Okay, and again, we can block, right, 6 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, this is a guy that we can't block, and he's to the call, or excuse me, he's going to the direction of the ball. So we've got to be able to run our RPO. So we have our glance on here, right, and then we just have hitches. And right, he sees pre-snap, right, he's not going to have anything, right? They're all mugged up, so his eyes don't even need to go there. Right, so we're going to work the glance. He goes and he commits to the run. There's a lot of room out there for us to throw the glance. Right, and this is a quarterback that we started, the season with. As you can see, it's a different kid than the last few clips. He wasn't as good as the RPO stuff as the second kid, right? He was more of a running quarterback. He got hurt. We were able to, and really our offense transitioned us to be able, this was really the first year I was able to really install some of these RPOs, right? But again, he throws a nice ball there. Okay, so this is one that we call enhanced, right? So this is just instead of us running the backside glance, right, against all these 1-high teams, now we're playing a 2-high team, and we're going to run an enhanced, which is it's the same thing. Now this is the pre-snap side. He should have a hitch, right? And then inside we're running the glance inside, and we're running a fin route on the backside. Okay, and here we're just running counter again back to the 2-man side. Okay, and again, all his read is, well, I'll tell you right now, he's got a bunch of guys walked up again. That is his read right there. He goes and commits to the box. We got a lot of room to throw the inside glance, right, for a touchdown. Okay, get into our next clip, same thing. Okay, now here we're running our inside glance concept. Okay, we're running again GT counter to the field. That was our best run concept all year. We ran it a lot. Okay, he sees a bunch of guys in the box, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Else we got to throw it here. And again, our receiver, now this is more of a man coverage look. Our receiver does a really good job, okay, of he wins at the point of attack, right? He shortens his route up because he knows his man, and he wins across his face and leaves us with a nice little run here, or just a nice little window. Okay, now, in terms of the mesh here, please keep in mind that this is our 4th-string running back at this point in the game. Okay, so he didn't really know what he was doing up there. This was actually a receiver too. That was our 4th-string running back in this game because we had so many injuries at running back in this game, right? But here he just knows, right, based off the box, right, that he's throwing this. Okay, same thing here. Running our inside glance concept, right, with the fin and the backside pre-snap. Okay, so this situation here was 4th and 7. I said, hey, if they give us this 2-high look right here and this guy goes and commits to the box, we're going to go ahead and throw this. It's exactly what happens. Again, his eyes go to that read, right, and we get all this room here to run this inside glance. Again, we're just running a GT counter here. Okay, so now we're running our hitch concept, right? Same thing against Otsego. Again, now this is the post-snap side. This is the pre-snap side. Okay, again, our pre-snap, he's just going to have a hitch. We're running hitches everywhere. Okay, and again, his read goes here, right? He sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? There's too many guys in the box. That's my isolation read. He goes and commits to the run. Doesn't matter if he steps forward at all. We say, hey, if he's going to fit the run, right, he's got to do it now. So his eyes go there. He steps up. We're going to take the hitch. Okay, same thing here. Okay, so now we're in our trade concept again. There's no pre-snap on the tight ends attached, right? He's a part of the core. Okay, he's just reading box numbers, right? And there's a lot of dudes over here, right? So we go ahead and we're just running another same thing, our hitch concept. Now, if teams start getting into where they're running true man stuff, right, with all these RPOs you're trying to run, right, you got to get into your rubs, your slot fades, whatever you're going to run that's going to beat man. But I tell you, if we're playing a heavy man team, I don't know how many RPOs we're going to run, right? We're going to get into the play action game. We're going to get into some man beaters and stuff like that. But again, you're going to see right here, he sees a lot of room out there, throws the hitch. Okay, so this would be an example of, okay, so we got all hitches on here. This would be an example of, he's fixing the box. He sees that the overhang is super tight to the box now. So now he says, hey, there's way too many dudes in the box for us to run this ball. We should now throw the hitch out here. Okay, so this is a different one we ran. Again, when you're game planning this stuff, I'd say the number one thing you got to understand is, right, how is the defense trying to fit the box, right? Who is their most aggressive seventh defender, and then how are you going to take advantage of that, and what coverage are they running behind it? Okay, so here, right, they're running cover. They're running cover a 0 here in the end zone, right? So there's a lot of guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, here we're just running a glance, but now we're running it as he's the post-snap guy. So run it with our tight end running the glance.
You have 5 minutes,
everyone
Coach.
else.
5 minutes.
Yep. Everyone else is really running hitches, right? They're in man, so we don't have to get into it, and we know we're just going to throw our glance to the tight end. Okay, just to get to the other ones we got. Okay, so this would be our flow read. Okay, so now we're reading the backside linebacker here in our flow read. Okay, so we're just running power here to the boundary. Okay, and we got slants. Okay, and he's taught, right, if it's one high, I'm going to win across the face, right? And we see that his isolation read goes ahead and blitzes. That's his cue to throw the slant. And we end up getting the big play, right? Touchdown. Okay, so that would be our flow read. We're now the back, right? So now we're reading the flow of the back of the defense, right? And the back will be on the other side. Okay, same thing here. Right, we're running a trap concept here to the boundary. Okay, and we have slants, right? So this backside linebacker goes ahead and flows. We're gonna throw the slant. So we're just replacing the blitzer. Okay, and that was some of our scrimmage film as well from it. Okay, so again, we're playing Ottawa Hills, had a deep run in the playoffs. Here in our scrimmage, so same thing, right? So now we're just in a 12 personnel look. Okay, we're running buck sweep to the boundary. Linebacker, backside goes ahead and flows. We're going to rip the slant. Okay, and then to get to our first level. Okay, we haven't done a whole bunch of the first level stuff because we haven't had too much of a running quarterback, right? So this guy was, but again, he only played for about 2 games before he got hurt, so we weren't able to dive into a whole bunch of reading the first level. Okay, but this is one of our favorite RPOs we do. It's with our tight end. Okay, and all we're doing is we're reading the end man on the line scrimmage. He goes ahead and commits to the run. Okay, he's going to get hands on, and then he's flat down the line, right? These guys are running off because it's man, right? And it's just we're running GT counter right to the boundary with RPO at the tight end. Okay, quarterback does a really good job. He pulls it, and what I really like here is he's taught, right, treat this as triple option. So again, if this linebacker did his job, right, and played the quarterback, again, we want to put him in triple option. He's got to pick, hey, who am I playing, the tight end or the quarterback? Here, he does a good job pulling it. He doesn't just give it away so this guy could make the tackle, right? But again, he gets pressure in his face, dumps it off. Okay, same thing here. He's going to step down now. we get any type of guy who's outside the Y will step down. He's going behind it. Okay, these guys are same rules. Block most dangerous guys, right? Create the crease for the tight end to come right out their ass. Right, same thing. The admin on line scrimmage, he goes ahead, he commits to the run. We're going to dump it off. Okay, and same thing here, right? On a 3-by-1, okay, the tight end. Here, we get a blitzer, quarterback sees it, pulls it, and get a big play. Coach, and that's all I got. Are there any questions?
I mean, my main question is like, because I've dabbled in RPOs over the years, and to be honest, personally, I think they work better with gap scheme than zone scheme, but that's a whole other long conversation that I'm not going to get into. Because I mean, I don't want to cause Steve to not be on time. But I mean, you've messed with this, and I've messed with it a little bit. Like, what do you think the best entry point in terms of play choice to pair it with is gap scheme wise? Like, from your perspective, I really like anything that pulls a guard personally, especially like Buck. Yeah. But like from you, what do you guys have real success in really like pairing your RPOs with? Yeah, so like you said, I bet in when I was at another school, we ran a bunch of zone stuff with our RPOs, and we didn't have a lot of success with that. And I just think maybe it's a difference between the college and high school level. I just think it's at the high school level, right? I think gap scheme is the way to go. And I think you get more movement with the linebackers when you pull guys, right? And you're moving gaps and making defenses have to fit. The one we have most success with is anytime we're pulling a double pullers, right? Whether that's buck sweep or whether that's GT counter or whether that's GY counter, because I think you're asking the defense and all these linebackers to now go fit two gaps that are moving, right? I think that's when we've had our most success and we've had our most explosive ones have been, the ones where, you're making the defense have to now, account for two gaps. But again, I'm not saying you can't run zone stuff and not be successful. I think zone is more, protects your quarterback a little bit more, right? There's not gaps opening up. Your quarterback doesn't have to know, where he's hot off of. But again, it's just really just your preference. And I think it really comes down to, how well you coach it and what you're comfortable with. Okay. No, perfect, Coach. Well, coaches, I put his Twitter in the chat. Coach is really easy to get a hold of. So don't hesitate to reach out to him. Like I said, this is some good stuff. And I think, Coach, you did a great job. Other than that, I appreciate your time, Coach. And the coaches also, if you want to watch the replay, you can wait till this is all the way done here in the next hour and change. Or as I cut these up, like I said, I'll post this as an individual and so forth. So, again, Coach, thank you. Appreciate you. Yep. Take care. Coach Steve, can you hear me?
So,
Jesus Christ, Steve. See, like I catch your podcast occasionally, but I always forget how much your room has changed since we met. Because what used to be like a blank wall, and then it was like a blank wall with one thing hanging, and now you are just like, I'm not saying Joe Rogan-ish, but like you're like, because his is more side oriented, but you are like Pat McAfee. Who's the other one? Who also just has an obscene of stuff on his desk?
Dan Patrick.
Yes, Patrick. Like that is it's great. I love it. Like sweet lords. Like, oh God. I also love the fact that you put your book right there just as free advertisement. Like I
know.
I appreciate.
I just did that as I was sitting here.
I don't really. I mean, I'm just going to get to it. Coach, you can share your screen. I don't know how you're doing this or whatever. You do what you want to do. Coaches, Coach, actually, while I'm doing my intro, Coach is going to talk how he's incorporating Feed the Cats and all that stuff into his O-line and their program and all that lovely stuff. And I don't know if I've told Steve this yet. When I was a head coach, me and Steve will have that conversation later. I told you. I put that in the group chat.
Yeah.
I forget why I put in group chats at this point. I did a lot of Feed the Cat stuff and incorporated. Me and Coach have both talked to Coach Holler. and we've all kind of done it our own way. But coaches became really passionate about it and changed a lot of the ways he coached last year and the stuff he's doing this offseason. Me and Coach have had a bunch of talks about it. So I'm going to let Coach Steve kind of talk about how he's incorporating Feed the Cats with what they're doing. Coach, floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Coach Bandstra. This is going to be your worst one yet.
Stop.
Because, well, I'll just get to it. Me and Coach Bandstra talked on what I should present. I ended up Feed the Cats approach with the offensive line. I'll get to why it's called approach with just the offensive line here in a second. First, thanks, Coach Bandstra, for letting me talk. You guys can make fun of my nerdy side here on my background and stuff, which I'll get to here, why it's like that. First, there's my personal email, my school email, Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. Both of them, because I'll get to my podcast one. Instagram, cell phone, if you guys want to talk ball, you guys have questions, just shoot the shit, whatever you want. Just reach out. It's all right there for you. A little bit about me. Right now, I'm the offensive line coach, run game coordinator at Addison High School in Illinois. It's a western suburb of Chicago. This fall will be year 15 of me coaching football. I've done it since I was 18, 19 years old. Currently the freshman boys basketball coach and JV softball coach at Addison. So I do all three. So there's no rest time. It's all the way through. I've also coached high school baseball, boys track, girls track, middle school basketball. So I've almost done everything. All I know is to coach. That's my life. That's all I know. For football, I've coached every position in football. I've been an assistant varsity DC. I've been a varsity offense coordinator. Mainly offensive line coaching has been kind of my, specialty, I guess. That's how I get jobs, because there's no O-line coaches out there, I guess. But I have coached every position out there in football. About me still, I'm like Coach Bandstra. I have a podcast on YouTube, The Coach Steve Show. Started in February of 2020, right before COVID hit. And then we all know what kind of happened after that. I've been so blessed to talk to coaches all over the country, from football to basketball, high school, college. Doesn't matter, every single level of college, all high school. It's a hodgepodge. I love talking about Illinois football. I love talking about Illinois basketball. Unfortunately, the Chicago Bears, but we'll see. There's offensive schemes, defensive schemes. And if you can't tell by the setup, I love Marvel and shows like that. So there is a segment on there for that. So it's kind of a hodgepodge, but try to give something to everybody. My time at Addison Trail, and this is what I wanted to get into, it kind of led me to thinking about Feed the Cats and kind of go through this little history of it. But first of all, my time at Addison Trail, I took the job in summer of 2020. I think it was June. Thinking COVID wouldn't last as long as it did, and we all kind of know what happened. We could not play in the fall. We were able to play in the spring. In Illinois, they jam-packed all three seasons between January and the end of May, beginning of June. I did coach all three in that time period, so it was a rough go. So my first year at that spring season, we only played, about 6-7 games, only won one. It was a tough go. So then in June, the state said, go back to normal, do everything as you normally would. So we went right back to basketball camps, football camps, weightlifting, like there was no time off. Going into that fall of 2021, we go 0-9. And it was the second time playing our coaching career going 0-9. We had tons and tons of injuries in that season. We went through 5 people playing quarterback. We went through 3 or 4 tight ends. I never had the same starting offensive line group at all. And you see that at the bottom. From that spring season all the way through the fall of 2022, I never had the same starting O-line group for any game. It was always something different. Injury, sick, whatever it was. But that fall 09 season, we had I even got the linebackers being hurt. We had received, we just had injuries all over the place. Then the fall of 2022, we go 2-7, so 200% increase, whatever that was. Then comes the fall of 23. We go 7-4 overall, 6-3 regular season. In Illinois, you only get 9 games in the regular season. We made the playoffs at 6-3. It was the first playoff berth for the school since 2014. We had to go on the road and play a team, and we end up winning that game. And that was the first road playoff win for the school since 1997. And in 1997, they had gone to the state title game. So it had been that long. And then the second round, we had a home playoff game. We hosted, obviously, and that was the first one for the school since 2014. We lost by 2 scores, turned the ball over 8 times, just a bad game. But from the spring to the fall, never had the same starting O-line. So during this time with the injuries, with how I never had the same starting O-line group, I always, and the podcast, doing the podcast and learning from different people, how could I be different? How could I bring something to the program and be different? And coming into last year, kind of fell on the feed the cats or the sprint-based football approach. So real quick, everybody probably knows what feed the cats is in sprint-based football, but like if you don't know, I put sprint training. I hate the word training. I hate the word workout with it because then kids obviously don't want to show up. But it's about getting faster. It's about not that old school way of thinking, which I think some old school ways of thinking still work, but we have to adapt them. Like what is feed the cat? Sprint training. We don't run for an hour. I've had kids say, well, I don't know if I host sprint training. I've had kids say, well, you're only doing things for 20 minutes. Why do I show up unless it's for an hour? That makes no sense. Why would I run you for an hour and tear your body down and never recover to where it can be faster? Old school mentality of thinking is no gassers. I'm not going to run them for an hour. We're not going to do things for a minute straight and then like in 10 seconds do it again. The body's not going to react that way. So I really started thinking about this, and I put these names up here because my first introduction to it was my friend Coach West. He coaches at Bismarck Henning High School in Illinois. It's in central Illinois. I would say maybe 35, 40 minutes east of the U of I. And he did it for track, and he explained it to me, but my old school way of thinking never processed it. He said, Steve, we were probably the laziest team you've ever seen. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, we'll do something for 10 to 15 seconds tops. Like if he's doing a sprint day or whatever it is, he times their sprint and they sit for 5 minutes. And he goes, we are just it looks like we're a lazy team, but we're getting faster. None of it computed with me. I had Coach Dixon on. He is big with the sprint-based football. He's the head football coach at Camp Point in Illinois. And I had him on. And my big thing was like the weight room because my mind wasn't comprehending you don't hit on Tuesdays. You go full pads on Wednesday and you don't really hit then either. Your practice are only an hour and a half. Like none of this makes sense to me and never processed. On the podcast, Coach Mueller, he's big in sprint-based football. Talked with him. It started to click. Then I talked to the guy that started it was Coach Holler. So I did it backwards. But then I talked to him. And when I talked to him, I was already drinking the Kool-Aid. I was full go. So I wanted to be different. How can I get these kids healthier? Seeing all the injuries we had. We have kids playing both ways. We are not a school that can 2-platoon. Like we have to go both ways. So what could I do to be different? So last year I did with just the O-line. This year I've started working with the kids in the morning. I called it Feed the Cats. We are called the Blazers. So they wanted to call it Feed the Flame. So now it's called Feed the Flame. The thing that I told the O-line coming in last year was I am changing my approach. Big thing Coach Tony Holler says is tired is the enemy, not the goal. I do not want them to be tired all the time. I'm not saying we don't work hard. I'm not saying that in those bursts of reps that they're not working hard, but we have to understand that I can't make them do certain things and then immediately in 5 seconds do it again. That's not realistic to football. We have like 30, 40 seconds in between plays, and the play only lasts about 6 seconds. Less is more. So what I mean by that is I don't want to come in with 10 drills that we got to do. I don't want to try to jam pack everything in. It's okay to break things up and work things different days. I did not do a one-on-one drill at all last year. And I know O-line coaches, sometimes that's what we want to do. Trust me, that's all I know. I knew that from a player. I knew that from coaching. I did not do a one-on-one drill because to me, it was not realistic of this base block that we're going to see. The old school, quote unquote, way is we're going to hit, and be physical. To me, that was not making the body work. You might get 2 good reps out of it, but if you continue it for 5 minutes and you're trying to get them going, then you go on to the rest of your practice. well, why does his skip pull look so bad? Well, this was offensive time. Now he's got to go play defense, and the coach is yelling at him for not being able to tackle and keep up. He's tired. The body is rejecting what we're doing. Less hitting. I used way more hand shields than ever before, working on footwork, working on aiming points, quick reps, but less of them. So if I get 10 minutes of individual time, I really had to make sure what I was doing in that moment, and I had to film it a little more. I had to quickly coach it. There was no time to stop it. I was looking for quick reps with ample time to like rest in between. I don't give them a whole minute. If they do a rep for 3 seconds, they switch with their partner holding the hand shield or whatever it was. That's like the rest period. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have all these different types of footworks. Like, why would I have all that in their mind? I was simple with it. You know, there's so many different ways. We were an inside zone, wide zone, sweep team, kind of like our sweep, and we ran power. So I had to make sure I did not want a million ways to block inside zone and different footwork. I did not want to have a million different things for wide zone or power. Like, I had to keep it as simple as possible in order to make this happen. Again, I put hand shields. I know people hate hand shields, but we use them to focus on placement. They have the number ones. Sometimes I'd have them just throw the hand shield off to where they could see the jersey and we wouldn't go full go. If we did go like very quickly, it was on air just to work on footwork and everything else. I would get cones out for like skip pulling. Where's the gap? Where are you hitting? Put cones out for the linebacker. Where's your eyes? I can see where their eyes are. Just a lot of less hitting. I know we used to go 5-on-4, or, you know, you put a defense out there and say, go, 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 go. I'm not doing that in individual time. I'm saving that for team. An inside run period. I'm not doing that down there with the O-line because I want them to be fresh, especially because they play defense. And the big thing is rest. If I had 10 minutes of individual time, I technically only had 8, because about 8.5, I tell them to walk and get water. Like, go around, don't be on the field, go get water and rest. Rest for that little bit. And that was a big thing I had to change, because for us, we were not a huge O-line. Speed and confidence. If they could play fast, they were confident where they're going on their assignments, we were going to be much better. So confidence and speed. The big thing was healthy. And I'll get to our injury part here soon, but we stayed incredibly healthy as an O-line. My goal was, we are going to try to outlast the other team. Only one kid on the O-line started on defense. The rest didn't, but they'd rotate in. So my job was to make sure that we could outlast teams, because we weren't the biggest and the strongest teams. They were uncomfortable with it because the years passed. I'm yelling, I'm chewing at them, I'm, you know, all into it. Hit them harder, block. You got to drive them backwards. We're gonna do one-on-ones to make you tough. We're gonna hit. We're gonna hit. We're gonna hit. I mean, I think that speed and confidence will make a kid more physical. If they're speed, they're confident, they're stronger, because the sprint stuff makes them stronger in the weight room, because their body's more relaxed, because sprinting deals with our nervous system, weight room deals with the rest of the muscles. I think that will make a kid more physical than trying to like hit and get that out of them. Some kids it works. I had a kid like that. We weren't hitting as much. He was my senior starter offensive lineman, started since he was a sophomore. He came up to me in the summer and he goes, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Where's the old coach, Steve? We're supposed to be hitting. When are we going to hit? When are we going to do this?" They were uncomfortable with it. Week 2, we're in a tight game. Halftime, I go in and I say, "Guys, how do we feel?" And they were like, "We feel pretty good. Like, we're not too tight." And as the games went on in the year, I kept asking them that. How do we feel? Which is weird, because at halftime, you're supposed to yell and hoop and holler. And I'd be like, "Guys, how do we feel?" And they're like, "Well, we feel pretty good." And there were some teams, as you saw the record I put up there, we started out last some teams up front, more normal than we ever did. And that created toughness. That word grit, I don't like. So I put that up there. Like, the toughness comes from the other stuff, the grit, whatever. I'm not calling it grit. We're going to be a gritty team at all. The hitting makes you tough. I had to get away from that. You can practice form and all that stuff, but if they're confident, they're going to go out there and hit. It took a lot of adapting. Practice planning. Like I said, I don't have just an offense to work with. They have to go practice defense. So if the first 40 minutes, let's say, is offense, then the second 40 minutes is defense, I had to try to work with the defensive coaches to see what they were doing, because if you think about it, if we all get our way, we'll have like a individual period. Then you'll have a group period, which most of the time is inside run or like some type of pass under pressure. Then you're going to have team. Then you go to defense. They're going to have an individual time. They're going to do some type of group activity, probably an inside run, and team. That is 2 periods of inside run, and that is 2 periods of team where you're going to thud or hit. That's a lot of hitting, and that's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And if you think about it from a game week perspective, if you're doing that on Tuesday, Wednesday, that's a lot. Thursday walkthrough, their bodies are now still trying to recover from that. So I had to see what sometimes the defense was doing. So sometimes if I saw they wanted inside run period and team period, I would try to tell the OC, hey, I don't want to do inside run today with the O-line, because they got to go do it with defense. I'm not doing it. They're just going to work on their assignments. Maybe we're going to work more on pass protection against the hand shield. Like, I don't think we need to do inside run. Or work with the defense and say, hey, guys, can you just do team today? Can you just do inside run today so the offense can get these 2 periods in? And if I knew those were the periods that were happening, my individual time definitely wasn't hitting. I would hit individual time. Let's say me and the offense coordinator decided, hey, you know what? We're just going to do a team period, and the defense saying, hey, you know what? We're really bad at our assignments. We're just going to work on our assignments. I would hit an individual time. Not one-on-ones, but I would send a defense in at them, right? So it's uncomfortable. This is the stuff we had to adapt to. We don't run for punishment anymore. I don't make them do up-downs when I get mad. I had a situation in practice where they were goofing off and doing things, and I walked away and I said, guys, you run the rest of practice. I'm done. I'm going to go help out the wide receivers. Go rest. Go do whatever. Me making them run and do up-downs does not work anymore. It worked when we played. Does not work anymore. So it's an uncomfortable feeling. Embrace the boredom. I don't do drills just to do them. They have a purpose. I do the same drills over and over to make sure they have speed and confidence. You can adapt and switch up, like adapt and tweak your drills to get to the same results. That way it keeps their mind always working. Technique and understanding will help them on a Friday night. And always be simple. That's the big thing. To the injury part. I told you I had no starting offensive line for the same games over and over. Coming into this year, we had no soft tissue injuries on the offensive line. There was no concussions whatsoever. Every year I always had an offensive lineman get some type of headache concussion thing. Not one. I had 2 freak injuries. My right tackle got rolled up on, and I think he broke part of his bone and stuff. So that was a freak thing. My guard in week 9 was playing linebacker, so it wasn't even an offensive line thing. Went to tackle, shoulder went this way, dislocated shoulder. Couldn't play in the first round playoff game, but came back in the second round. So from everything else, we had none of those type of injuries at all. Now, again, why is it just the O-line? This was my year to try to convince the head coach and all the other coaches what I was trying to do. So this year, the head coach is on board. We are full sprint-based, feed the cats. He is fully on board with it. He's going to try to get the other coaches on board so we can do this. So kind of going into what we're going to do this year, this is kind of what I put together, obviously. Is if you go from week 1, Friday's a speed day because it's a game. Saturday and Sunday, we're going to do nothing. Monday, probably in our world, sometimes there's a JV game on Saturday, but mainly they're on Mondays. Varsity's going to have a film and walkthrough, or they're just going to have film and do nothing. They might have the day off. Tuesday's what we call an X Factor day, where they're not going to go as fast as possible. They cannot get up to their full miles per hour. We're still going to work, but they cannot get up to full speed. They need ample time in between. So we have to work together in doing those things. Wednesday, you might add a little more hitting. And by that, I mean maybe more thudding or whatever you want. But that's also a speed day. That's why you add some of that into it. Thursday's X Factor. That's our walkthrough. We do not want to get up to full speed. We're not doing drills. Part of me wants to do nothing, but you have to go out there and walk through stuff. Full pads on Wednesday. RPR, people that don't know what RPR is, reflexive performance reset. Got certified in that. That's one of the biggest things in this. Getting the nervous system ready for sprinting, getting muscles activated that they've never used before, breathing, and making sure that we are as healthy as possible to try to avoid those soft tissue damages. I've been doing this since February, I believe, or March with the kids. I have a kid, he started off running 17 miles per hour. Now he's up to 19 already, like those type of things. I have the offensive linemen doing bounces and stuff to get their ankles stronger. They're moving quicker. They're bouncing higher. So hopefully this will turn into some of this, but this is kind of where we're going with this, to get the head coach involved and get this going. So this will be what you'll see in the future. But with your offensive linemen, since they're always hitting, you got to take it easy on them. You got to be tough and do this. You got to think of different ways to do that. Tell them to play fast. Tell them to play confident. And I think the less you do, the more confident they're going to be, the more comfortable they're going to be. And it worked. It worked. And I'm not saying it was just that led us to a winning season. We had great, coaching. We had great kids on the outside to make plays and do these things. But we all know it starts up front and ends up front. And because I also had to coach some of the kids that did not start O-line, they're mainly defensive linemen, but they practiced with me in that scenario. And I actually think it helped them on defense to be more prepared and to be faster and not as tired. So that's kind of the approach I took with the O-line. Less is more. It's uncomfortable. It's not the old school way that we're all used to. It was a lot of uncomfortability for me in the season, but as we got going, it just got easier. Right now, working with speed stuff, literally it's 20 minutes. They do something for 10 seconds, get 50 seconds rest, do the next thing. And so it takes us 20 minutes. I only say 20 minutes because RPR takes a couple minutes. The workout itself is probably 16 minutes. And then we're ready to rock and roll. And so hopefully we can be different, be faster, and that's kind of this approach. Coach Bandstra, that's all I got.
Well, my friend, like I said, I'm with you 100% on the feed the cat stuff. Like I said, I think we did it this year. We had some minor ankle and other things, but like we had no soft tissue injuries. We had 2 concussions all year as a whole team, and it wasn't like any other thing. Like It wasn't. We had 1 freakish shoulder injury. Other than that, we had minor little things with our ankles and hamstrings, but nothing major that kept anybody out, that hindered somebody. I'm more confident. It's not even just the speed and agility part. Like kind of like you were talking. Like I'm more and more convinced that it's affecting like hydration and other things, which factor into concussions and other health issues and health safety. And I think that's good. Like I have a coaches meeting after this with both my line coaches, and that's one of the things I want to talk about is just reps and technique instead of like mass contact. Like I could get too crying. Like, yeah, you need contact in football. I'm not saying you don't, but like I'd rather my O-lineman execute and be fast and athletic. Coach Gonzales is on after you. His thing is out of the slot T and the flex bone. And I've talked to coach after coach, like if you're slow in the slot T, you can't play offensive line. Like you're playing defense probably. You're not playing offensive line at all. So like it goes back to that mindset and philosophy. And like I said, I think you did a killing job. I will tell you that after you get off here, you need to look at your DM. You'll be quite shocked. Once you're done, don't overdo it. Okay. But yeah, no, coach did a good job. Like I said, like my biggest question for you is, and I know people ask, how are you getting your head coach to buy in? Because as an assistant, that's great. And you doing your own little thing, but again, if you don't get his buy-in, at any program, it doesn't matter. And you can send them as many Tony Holler videos as you want, or it doesn't matter. Like, how are you convincing your head coach to buy in?
It took me a couple seasons. One thing I was able to kind of pick out was he did a student teaching at York High School in Elmhurst where Coach Chris Corfus was, and he was the track coach, and he came up with the RPR. So he was already kind of seeing it. So the RPR part, he was already kind of involved in, but he just needed somebody to take initiative and go do it. So this off season, I said, I'm taking initiative and doing that part. And then I just kept telling him, like, this is like, look at what teams are doing. I just kept having to show him. And I think the results of how the O-line was different really then affected what he was thinking about. He said, hey, I saw it working there. Yeah, we got 6 wins, but we kind of were under the radar. How are we going to be different? And I just finally gave him one last spiel about, let's be different. Let's do this. I think the kids will love it because we need them to show up, because we work in a school where sometimes they get disappeared and you got to go find them. And finally, he just said, screw it. Let's be different. Just something switched. And it was a lot of me bitching and moaning to get him to do it. I see him every morning, never left him alone. But I think me keeping data on the O-line, showing him how healthy we were. And he kept watching us throughout practice. And he goes, you know what? Thinking back to his high school days, they did the gassers and stuff. He played at North Central College. And he thought back to that time where he said, we didn't run for punishment. He was thinking back to those times and how successful they were at North Central and said, you know what, let's do it. And he talked to Chris Corpus, I think. They were emailing, really started to think about it. Teams around us are some of them are starting to do it too. So he was talking to them outside of me and said, let's do it. And so he's come to, and he said, but let's just do a trial run. Let's do the sprint stuff in the morning. So we did that. He comes in, he likes it. I keep the data. He's seeing it and he goes, I'm all in. And so now the next step is getting the other assistant coaches in. And he said, that's his job. So I just do what I do. He'll take care of that. He'll go around the drills and make sure they're done the way they're supposed to be. So hopefully I don't get fired after this year if it doesn't work, but that's the process.
Okay. All right. Well, Coach, I appreciate you, and I'm gonna hand it off to our next speaker. But again, I appreciate you, Coach, and you have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
You too, Coach Bandstra. Thank you.
Talk to you, my friend. All right. Let's see. Let's get Coach. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Won't do any good if I did. You know that. I mean, but Coach, while I do my spiel, go ahead and share your screen or whatever you want to look at today.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is our last speaker for today. So, Coach, you actually have a little bit more time today. The 30-minute allotment if you want to go over it all. But Coach Gonzales is a high school coach in the great state of Texas. Coach was on last clinic and did a great job. And I had a lot of coaches asking for him to come back on and keep talking and do some more of what he kind of talked about. And I was like, yeah, I'll reach out to him. And I reached out to Coach, and he's more willing to come back on and kind of talk about his system and kind of his mesh of the slot T and the flex T, slot T and the flex bone, and kind of what has turned into the flex T. And well, Coach, I mean, the floor is yours, and I mean, you got, 30 to 40 minutes or so. Kind of take your time and, like I said, have fun with it.
All right. Well, let me close that. Alrighty. Let me delete that. Now we're ready to go. All right. So last time we talked, it was basically the intro of it all. I'm going to touch base a little bit just for those who kind of missed it a little bit. Kind of the mindset behind it real quick, and then jump into the phase that I want to talk about. Not so much the slot T wing T start things, because a lot of people, there's a lot of resources already out there on the buck sweep and the traps and that type of deal. It would kind of be repetitive if I go over mainly slot T stuff or flex bone stuff. But I'm gonna hit the third dimension of the offense. That's I guess not as common when you're talking about flex bone and you're talking about the slot T, and go into a little bit more into depth about that. So the first thing I want to do is just a quick overview of the flex T, and I covered a little bit of this last time. The best way I could explain it, it's a three-headed beast. All right, it's the flex bone option. Slot T and the tempo shotgun offense merge into one. It's taking the strengths of all three and to make one. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's simply just taking the best, most effective schemes from the flex bone, the slot T, and the shotgun tempo stuff, and use it to attack your opponent. And this is mainly stemming over the last 2 decades of coaching stemming from the defensive side of things, having to coach defense and coaching defense, and then really just remembering, like, God dang, this week we got to play Coach Whitaker over at Porto Vaca, and they run the flex bone, and trying to get your kids ready in 3 days to see that and how hard it was. And of course, we were a slot T team, and then having to play against other teams that ran slot T or a version of it, now having to prepare for that, and I knew that was tough. And of course, all the teams that were really good at running tempo, having to rep our kids and do that. So I try to figure out a way, and it's still adapting and still tweaking things, but try to figure out a way to have all three of those concepts into one. What I like the most, it gives us the ability to be multiple and then adapt to our personnel strengths, and it gives us an answer to any situation. So if we're going against a team that's just lights up the scoreboard, then we may stay under center and run more slot T, flex bone stuff, and just play keep away to give us a chance at the end if we're outmanned. Or if we go against a team whose secondary is pretty sus, but they have a good up front, and as far as stopping the run, then maybe we'll run a little bit more gun T stuff and throw the ball around to exploit the really attack the weaknesses. So it's be multiple with the power run game, the option read game, and the tempo pass game that is sound and effective. Again, it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just taking the bread and butter of the slot T and the few bread and butter plays, concepts, whether it's midline or inside veer of the flex bone, and then the tempo stuff and merging it together. Okay, since there's a strong side and a quick side, and I think this gives us a lot of value. If you're one of those coaches, you kind of understand if you flip flop your lines. It allows us to teach and practice 2 plays at the same time that it takes our opponent to teach and practice 1. So we have left sets and we have right sets. And that's the most important thing, I guess, theme that you got to carry in between each phase of your offenses. So with the flex bone and with the slot T, when we run it, we would flip flop our lines and then run a play to the strong side and run a certain play to the quick side. When we implement our gun tempo stuff, we keep the same thing. We're going to flip flop because that's what the kids know, and that's how the terminology and the playbooks are able to merge and stay together as one. And that's how we get away with being able to do a little bit of everything. All right, so real quick, a quick review. Our slot T side, which is what we did is we moved the slot to the strong side, so it's more of a wing T, buck sweep type of offense. So we run all of our 200 series and our 400 buck sweep series to the strong side. So we have our bread and butter plays to the strong side, and then to keep them honest, we come back to the quick side and we have our midline, our inside veer, our speed option stuff, along with, and we merged the jet and belly series together. So we'll run our jet sweep back to the quick side once they start slanting, overloading to the wing side or to our slot side, and then also keep that fullback behind center, behind the quarterback to follow up after the jet action, follow up and be able to run some belly series stuff. Again, back to the quick side. So we have our quick side plays. Again, it stays with the theme with the slot T. We have and wing T. It's strong side plays and quick side plays. And when we talk, it's important that we don't have plays going to the right and plays going to the left. They're going strong side, they're going quick side. Or we got strong side sprint out, or we got quick side sprint out. So the most important thing is that you stay with that theme. So the transition is more smooth. Some base formations. Again, I'm just touching with the under center stuff. Today's going to be a little bit more focused on how we do the gun stuff and how we implement it with the other stuff. So some of our base stuff that I like to run, our base formation is our M formation. And again, we got our wing T 200, 400 stuff. And then we have our midline veer stuff back to the quick side. And the reason why I like the veer stuff, back to the quick side, because if you cut it in half, you got your flex bone formation, half of things. And then now you got your quick side. And if you're familiar with the quick sides, they're usually your smaller, quicker type of linemen. They're not as physical as your strong side. So now you're taking advantage and playing into your personnel. So now you're adding more blockers at the point of attack by allowing your quarterback to read the down lineman, whether it's midline or whether it's veer. So now you're kind of playing into your personnel. So you got so some of the terminology, we got M set and we got M over, and at any time we can go left set. So we can go M left, and now it just flips everything and still run the certain strong side plays, and you can just come back and run your quick side plays. And then we got M twins, and then M twins over. Just meaning, of course, those are all unbalanced sets with the over sets. All right, so now this is the part that I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more, just because everybody there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of resources on Buck, the offense, and then the flex bone stuff. There's a lot of good stuff. I got from Kelly Lee, and watching his stuff and communicating with him. A lot of my flex bone stuff is based off of the way he does things. So, just like anything else, all this is not brand new stuff. It's just stolen ideas, things that I've experienced, things that I've experienced having to prepare for, and it was just really tough. And then, and I think it gives the type of kids that I'm used to working with in South Texas, it gives us, the kids are maybe a little bit smaller, not as big. We don't have a whole lot of D1 athletes. So it gives us a chance to compete with those kids when you're 3, 4, 5 rounds in the playoffs, and it gives you a chance. So now the Tempo Gun T series, again, staying with the theme and remembering that you still have your strong side plays and your quick side plays. So what this allows us now is to go multiple receivers, and still now take the gun concepts, whether it's mesh, whether it's running high-low concepts or a stick concept or the quick game, the now ones, the now twos, some screen game, and implementing it into which would be typically like a heavy slot T, just run and play action type of offense. This gun T still allows us to keep our identity of what we do, and so as far as running sweeps and play action, but still allows us to open it up a little bit and be able to take advantage of some of those other concepts that most gun teams run. So some of the benefits that we see going tempo and going no huddle, and I'll go a little bit into the way it's structured here in a little bit, but of course it forces defense to line up in base, because you're thinking about it now. As a defensive coordinator, you're breaking down film, and then you see us go under center, and you see us run buck sweep, and you see us run trap, and see us run tackle trap, and then all of a sudden we run midline, and then some jet sweep, and it's like, okay, so defensively you're thinking, and it's like, okay, so I'm charting this stuff. I got to be sound to the jet sweep. I got to be sound to the option, which is a totally different beast. If you're experienced calling defense or having to prepare for that, and then the wing tee, the buck sweep stuff is not common, so you got to prepare for that, and then all of a sudden they go into gun, and it's just the tempo part of things, or the empty gun part of things, and then have to prepare for that. So it's just the third dimension that I think gives us a lot of value and gives us the ability to be multiple. And the whole mindset was really just trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and that'll make a little bit more sense when I start talking about why we do and some of the benefits we get from doing it the way we do it. So again, it helps us manage the clock when time's an issue. And really this tempo, this gun tee is more of our like 2-minute offense. So I know most slot T teams, they may work it like on a Thursday during walkthroughs. All right, let's work our 2-minute, and then really never get very good at it. I know there's some other teams that are a little bit more balanced and spend a little bit more time on it and is pretty effective with it. But our tempo series, okay, why we use tempo, okay? Like I just mentioned a little while ago, it gives us a 2-minute offense. Like I said, most slot T teams, most wing T teams, most flex bone teams, if they fall behind, then it's tough. It's tough. Or if they give up a big play on special teams and all of a sudden you're down by 2 touchdowns, most flex bone teams and most slot T teams, I wouldn't say so much all slot teams. I know Coach Sosa likes to throw the ball around, and the first time you start loading the box, I know he's going to let it rip and make you pay. But like I said, most teams like that are okay with three yards in a cloud of dust. And that's the game they play, and it's tough to defend, and they play keep away. So offensively, you're very limited on the opportunities you get when you're playing against teams like that. And that holds a lot of value. But I've seen games where all of a sudden you kick off and then they return kickoffs. All done, you're down 7-0, and then get the ball back, and then say you fumble and they scoop and score, and all of a sudden it's 14-0. Now you're behind. So what's going to be your answer? I mean, you may not have enough time for the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So it gives us a 2-minute offense, and of course, if you got the ball right before the half, you can use that 2-minute offense to give us the best shot to either put you in a position to kick that field goal or maybe score right before the half. And of course, at the end of the game, if you're having to go a whole length of the field, you have to, you got to open it up, and you can't just run the same play actions over and over again, or just take the deep shot because it's defenses are expecting that. So. Another thing it does, why we use a tempo as another dimension. Again, this is just another dimension to what's already in place. It gives us the answer when you run short on time to finish out the game. And like I said, you're falling behind. It allows you to open it up and really speed up the tempo of your offense. And then I think the last dimension, why we do it, it gives the opponent another dimension that they have to prepare for. So again, when you're preparing on the weekends and you're breaking down film and you're charting everything and you're entering everything into huddle and you have, and you're charting the Bucks series, and then you're charting the flex bone stuff, and then you're charting, all of a sudden they're going tempo, and you're charting the pass plays and the run plays out of it. And then again, you're drawing up cards and you're having to prepare for all that. It kind of puts you in the bind defensively, and I think that's what it does. That's another thing that why I like the flex T and why I felt that it's evolved to what we do now. It forces a defense's hand. It forces them again to play a little bit more base, and it forces them to be more predictable. Number one, it forces them to have to be very simple with their plan of attack. You got a question?
No, you're good, Coach.
Okay, I thought I heard something. It forces them to have to be simple with their game plan. They can't just, when they do this is an automatic. When they do that, here's an automatic. And I think, again, during the week, they're having to script their scout book, and they don't get a whole lot of reps of defending the quick trap, or they're not going to be able to get a whole lot of reps defending midline, which, if you ever had to defend it, you got to rep the heck out of it because it's tough. You can't just scheme against it because you're going to get yourself burned, or you're going to stunt yourself out of the play and give up a big play. because there's also the jet sweep and there's also the gun tee stuff. And if you're doing too much, then your kids are thinking. They're thinking way too much, which plays into, I guess, the offensive hand. So that's why we do it. The tempo stuff. Again, like I said, it gives you another dimension, and then it's just another thing that our opponent's going to have to rep. So they're more busy having to rep the tempo stuff and having to work the tempo stuff, and really not get a whole lot of reps and trying to stop our bread and butter stuff. Okay, so the next thing, so the transition, how we merge it all together, because it's all different worlds. The flex bone's a different world from the slot T, wing T stuff. Wing T, slot T's, they're pretty much in the same family, but the flex bones is a totally different family when you're talking about preparing it. As far as it's in the run game family, but when you're preparing it, it's a totally different beast. So the fact that you have to rep the flex bone and the fact that you have to rep the slot T stuff, and then now how do you merge the gun T stuff into it? And also not only that is how do you change gears? You go from the 30 yards in a cloud of dust playing keep away, the physical hit you in the mouth type of offense, into a tempo type of offense. And I think another thing it does is, of course, kids nowadays, they see the NFL stuff and they see the tempo stuff and they play the Madden stuff and they like the wristband stuff. They like how it looks like when they wear the wristband and the Nike gloves and all that good stuff. So I think it plays into that, and it kind of changes gears at practice for your kids. Kids like it. It's kid friendly, I guess you could say. So how we merge it together, it starts off by keeping the same mindset of a strong side and a quick side. That theme has to bleed over into every phase of your offense, whether you're running option or whether you're running buck sweep. The strong side mindset and the quick side mindset stays intact. Okay, and that's how we make it work. And just like anything else, it has to be practiced. Okay, I know you have X amount of minutes that you rep all this stuff, and then to be good at it, you have to get quality reps. And to be good at the gun T tempo stuff, it has to be practiced. And the way we do it, and I think the way you got to think outside the box, number one. And we practice sit and hidden minutes. And what I mean by that is our tempo script is our conditioning. So we may have a script for our tempo, and we may save it. And of course, your head coach has to be on, and your defense coordinator. We've got offensive days of conditioning, and we'll spot the ball, and we'll have a first team, second team. Then we've got our JV, first team, second team. And of course, their menu is a little smaller, but it's introduced to them. But we script it and we just run the plays down the field as fast as we can and as effective as we can. And that's our conditioning. So that's how we kind of steal some time on working our tempo stuff and then really repping it at a fast pace. Sometimes it's on air. Sometimes it's with the skeleton crew out there to give us a look. But early on, it's on air just to work on the mechanics and the communication part of things, either from the communication from the sideline to the huddle or just communication on the field amongst the kids, and rep it that way and get efficient, get good at it. Once I feel comfortable that they've kind of had the idea of how the tempo works and how it's structured, and then we'll throw a defense out there and go against the defense and then move the ball. And then again, we work it by stealing minutes. And of course, if you have a system, this stuff is worked year round, and then you work it with your receivers, your skill kids, with your quarterbacks during the summer. You work it as part of your 7-on-7 package. and work at those route concepts and the terminology. You start teaching it then. So it's important that you do that during the off season, so you don't have to. There's not a whole lot of teaching involved during in season, and it's all about just getting reps and getting reps and getting reps and getting reps and looking at this defense and this front and getting reps and getting reps. So it's a year-long process when you're running this stuff. At least that's how we do things. Okay, so the structure. So I'm going to try to paint a picture of the structure. All right, so just like any tempo, if you're involved with tempo offenses, everybody has a system in place on how they do things. This is how we have it structured. And of course it's been evolving. Every year is a little bit different. We tweak this and maybe we change this. And sometimes it all depends on personnel and who we trust on making these calls and sending the formation and calling the protection type of deal. So for us, our base structure is of course the center's going to spot the ball when we're going tempo. Of course, this is tempo, and everything is for us. It's one word plays, and early on, it's on a wristband, and we call the one word play, but the description is on that wristband as far as what play we're running. So, for example, if you can use any terminology, whatever works for you. Everybody has a different terminology, way they do things, and for example, in the past, we used university or colleges. So, if we want to run, for example, we want to run buck sweep out of gun, we may call it Texas. Or we may signal it in the Longhorn Hook'em mascot deal. We may just call Longhorn, or we may call Texas. We may just signal in the Longhorn, or another phrase we may use is just call orange, 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 orange. And no matter if we say Longhorn, or we say Texas, or we say orange, it all means buck sweep. So we're going to run buck sweep. So as soon as the whistle's blown and we want to go tempo, we start yelling the college name out, whether it's Texas or whatever. The center is worried about spotting the ball, okay? The tailback and halfback are re-echoing or setting the formation. So if I call trips, or if I call tray, and our base one we base out of, as soon as we start tempos, trips. They start hearing trips. Of course, out of MSET, out of the under center stuff, it's all either M twins, M over. If they start hearing trips or tray, then they know we're going tempo. So right off the bat, without saying, hey, we're going tempo, we just call the formation. And then it's echoed with the tailback and the halfback. They're setting the formation. They're yelling trips, trips, trips. And then our strong end and halfback kind of calls the protection. And the reason why we have that, our strong end and halfback, of course, you'll see the formations here in a little bit, but when we want to go 6-man protection, it's going to be one of them helping out on our pass protection. So that's why I had them assign as far as helping call the protection on whatever the pass play is going to be, if it's a pass. And then, of course, the quarterback's calling up the play. So we have signal words. Our strong tackle and strong quick tackle echoes the play. So, of course, they'll be on one end or the other. We flip-flop. So the strong tackle echo it out towards the sideline. Our quick tackle echo it out to his side, just to assure that everybody and everything is communicated. We rep it and we try to move as fast as possible. And again, it's tempo, so it's more about having our 2-minute offense and be able to change gears and move fast, and then also giving the defense something else to have to work on. And the out of our gun stuff, it's the menu is very small. We mainly have maybe about 4 or 5 run plays, but it's all the same concept. It's all either buck sweep, it's the jet. So it's all the the same run concept. So nothing new up front is being learned as far as blocking. Blocking, it's already been taught when it's under center. So the run plays is pretty simple. The pass play stuff, it's all concept that's already in the playbook. It's just now having to work the shotgun snap and repping that. And again, you rep that either pre-practice or during the summers, or you rep it while you're doing special teams. You may want, if you can, still your quarterback, who's usually not on kickoff. So you're working kickoff, you use center and your quarterback. They're working pass protections with the offensive line coach, and they're getting their gun snap. So I think if you're just smart about it to steal time to work those things, then it's very possible. So that's kind of how it's structured as far as communicating the tempo. Again, we're talking tempo stuff and how we do things. And I'm sure someone else has a better idea that's more efficient and more better or whatever, but this is kind of our layout and how we do things. And again, I think the most important thing is that you keep the theme of a strong side and a quick side play. So what's also predetermined, I forgot to mention on this, to make it the tempo go fast, we don't use any motion unless it's a dead ball. Then I'll call it on the play card. I have those separated as far as when I want to call a motion out of the gun. But there's no motion involved when we're going tempo. We're trying to move fast, and then also the strength of where the tied up is our strong side is going to line up. It's already predetermined. They're always going to line up to the boundary. If the ball is middle of the field, then it's going to be a right set. So if we go trips, our setter is going to spot the ball, and he's going to go, if the ball is on the right hash, he's going to say right, because we're going to set our strong side to the boundary. And of course, that's going to leave our trips or a multiple receiver side, because it's going to leave it to the field. We're going to set that to the field. So it's already predetermined. If we run a quick out to the field, go ahead. If we run a quick play out to the field and then they're tackled, stayed in bounds, of course, center's running to that hash mark to get the ball set. And then everybody else already knows, it's already predetermined. We're going to flip the formation. So now trips is going to the field, the strong end's going to the boundary, strong side's going to the boundary, quick side is running towards the ball and knows they're going to be to the field. So it's pretty much all determined as far as the formation. That allows us to move a little bit faster than having to set the formation. Again, like I said, the formation as far as when we flip-flop, it's already predetermined on field and boundary. So that's how we do that. Okay, some of the base formations, because we keep and trying to keep things simple. Our base one we use out of our gun stuff is trips, and this is what trips looks like to us. We got our swing man split out on the line, and then our halfback, and then our tailback in a base trips formation. We always have a strong end intact, unless we go wide, which is rare, hardly ever, and it's usually like a Hail Mary play when he's out wide. And typically, if we're in that situation, we're probably going to get in another swingman to come in for him and run like a Hail Mary play. I like that. I always like to keep that strong end in play, because it kind of still keeps our identity as far as our run threat and being able to run buck sweep out of it. It allows us to do that. Anytime we're going to go, again, multiple receivers, if we call trips empty, that tells the fullback to line out away from trips. So anytime he hears empty, he's going away from the call, away from trips. All right. And like I said, it's always predetermined. Strong side always goes to the boundary. And again, that has to be rep, and you still, whether you're doing conditioning or off-season stuff. So that's kind of already learned ahead of time. This is our tray look with the one back, with our fullback tray. And of course, we can always flip it if we want to. We want to run just regular offense. We can go tray left, and then it flips the formation. So that's our tray look, and then tray empty. And again, that just tells the fullback to line up, split out, away from the call, away from the tray call. Earlier, it was trips. Okay, that's what trips empty looks like right here. He's going away from the trips. This is our tray empty. Here's tray, and he's running away. He's lining up away from tray. Okay, so those are a couple of our base formations. And again, when you go empty, you know, as a defensive coach, you see empty, then I think it makes the defense a little bit predictable. So a lot of times, most defenses, unless they know they're going to see a whole lot of empty, they'll have maybe two automatics to that. They'll have where they're going to send the house and man up with everybody, or they're going to drop everybody. So I think it going empty and being able to go empty, it makes the defense a little bit more predictable. And this is our tres look. So we got tres, which is puts our tailback in that slot right there. And then tres empty again, it tells our fullback to line up away from the tres call. So he just lines up away. So that's how we do our base formations. And that's how we try to keep it as simple as possible. And again, just like anything, the KISS formula, keep it as simple so our kids can play fast and aggressive. And you don't want them out there thinking, because if they're thinking, they're not moving fast. And you know how the game is, so it needs to be played. So those are our base formations. Those are our structures. This is why we implemented the tempo package. Again, it's a few run plays, it's a few pass plays, and I think about 80% of it comes out of trips, but depending on how they're lining up, we may take advantage and run some tray empty. But that's what we do out of that. And really that's all I have for you, Coach. I wasn't planning on having a little bit more time than that, but I'll go back to that first slide, and there's my email, there's my phone number. I know I didn't cover a whole lot of just the FlexBone stuff. I did a little bit in that first part one, but you can email me, you can call me if you have any questions about the other stuff. And it's just like anything else, it's constantly evolving, and we're tweaking it and trying to make it a little bit more simpler, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective, and find a way to sell it a little bit better to our kids, and it's what we do. So,
well, perfect, Coach. Coaches, reach out to Coach. His contact information is on the screen. So do not hesitate to reach out to him. Like I said, I know, again, there was quite a bit of coaches who wanted to talk to him, and we've had coaches in and out the whole session. And I know the Slot T Facebook group, if you're not part of that, we'll probably comment on this and repost it and all that lovely jazz. And I know Coach is part of that as well. Like I said, that's all of our speakers for today. If you won't rewatch any part of this, the full VOD should be converted, however YouTube does it, in the next couple minutes, and then I will get these started cutting up, and individual like pieces of this clinic will be probably posted either Monday or Tuesday this week. Otherwise, I appreciate everybody that came on and watched, and again, do not hesitate to reach out to any of our fantastic speakers if you have any questions for them. Coach Gonzales, thank you. I appreciate you, and you have a great